Good morning and welcome to Sewing Street on this lovely Monday morning. Well, it's a bit foggy and frosty out there, but it just feels, I love it when it gets nice and frosty. It kind of feels like Christmas is on its way. So if only we had a bit of snow. Anyway, only 18 more days to go. Not very long, so I'm looking forward to a bit of snow, but nice to see a lot of frost around this morning. So we've got some great things coming up on the show for you today, and it's Yarn Lane Day as well, which is even woohoo, which clearly I'm very excited about. So we've got some great stuff. So I'm going to start off with you this morning on our early bird, which is this beautiful, beautiful box of ribbon. Look at that. So they let me open it up. They said I can open it up, which was a bit tricky because it is really nicely packaged. So I have to pull the ribbon off. And it's like the matching ribbon inside. So in the box you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pieces of ribbon. This is beautiful. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see it really well. So the each of the pieces, the length is 1 metre long, and they're 10 mil, so centimetres, like 3/8 of an inch wide. If I open one of you, it's this lovely grosgrain ribbon, which means it's got this really nice grain, so it makes it extra strong. And actually, if I open it all up so you can see a whole length, so you get 1 metre. And it's got this lovely running stitch detail along it, so it looks really hand stitched. So in the box you get pale pink, bright pink, red, peach, yellow, green, turquoise, royal blue, lavender, brown, white and black, and all of that for just £4.99. So this is ideal if you want to do, if you're doing brilliant for wrapping around your Christmas presents, using as gift tag things just for the Christmas, to gift tag loops. But it's great for all those little bits and pieces of sewing. Maybe you want to put a drawstring in the top of a bag. Ideal for that because 1 metre is just about the right length. If you want to do some decorating of something, you could just stitch these across the front, put them on a bag or a cushion or something like that. But because you've got all the colours of the rainbow, it's just a really good stash. It's the sort of thing that you probably wouldn't go to your haberdashery and buy 1 metre of all of these. It's just lovely. I mean, I make a lot of drawstring bags and things with closures, and you always need little bits of ribbon here and there, and so this is just a really nice thing to add to your bundle. Now remember, we have 1 postage and packing. It's £3.95 per day. You only pay it once, then that's done, and it doesn't matter how many times you check out between now and midnight, you'll still only be charged that one £3.95. So once you've popped this in your basket, that's your postage done and dusted for the rest of the day. And then everything else is sort of free after that, really. But it's just a lovely selection of ribbons. I like the pale pink, but I think actually, oh no, I was going to say that turquoise, but actually this green's my favourite. This is a real sort of apple green or limey sort of apple green. But isn't that beautiful? It's just a lovely thing to have. It's just one of those things, when you need a nice length of ribbon just to tie around a parcel or to sew to something and you don't have. But by having this little bundle at £4.99, that's perfect, isn't it? But what I really like to do with presents, particularly if I'm giving it to somebody who sews, is to get a fat quarter of fabric and wrap it in the present in that, and then you can wrap some of the ribbon around it. And I always know people, well, I always do, don't you? If you've got a present wrapped in ribbon, I always keep them, fold them up and put them in my box and use them for something else. Even the sort of really, those lovely really sheer ribbons, I always keep all my ribbons. And look at that. So what you could do, give them the box, take one out, wrap it round, and they go, where's that other one gone? And they all come in these little plastic sleeves. It's a lovely thing. So it's a really nice gift. It's the sort of stocking filler thing. If you were making a stocking for somebody, either, it could even be a child, couldn't it? Whether it's a child or an adult, this would be ideal to pop in their stocking. Because for a child, they all like ribbon crafts. There's always lots and lots of things you can do. Look, you can wrap them all back up. I'm going to put it, look at that, almost fits. Don't think I did quite so well with that. And they all come in this lovely little box, so they're all ready out, which means they're very easy to wrap should you need to. So I'm going to pop them back in there. So if you want to get in touch with us this morning, you can send me a message. I love to read your messages. I love to see your photos of things you've done. Interact with me. I like to hear sort of comments. I'm often ask you questions about things that you've done, what you think you would do with this, lots of different things. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at studio, there we go, at sewingstreet.com. So you can just send me a message and we'll read them out on air. And it's just really nice to interact with everybody because, as you know, I do loads and loads of sewing and knitting and crochet myself. And it's really nice to see what you're doing and what you're making at the moment. So on this lovely frosty December morning, send me a picture of what you've got today that you're doing. If you want to shop online, it's really, really simple. The easiest way to do it is if you go onto the website and click on Watch Live, underneath there are all the products that are on today's shows. It's just a simpler way of doing it because then you can just have a look. You can scroll down the screen. So underneath the Watch Live, if you scroll down, you can see all the products and they're much easier to order. Now, you can either, there it is. So can you see me there on Watch Live? Now, if you scroll down underneath, you can see, look, there's the early bird. That's the first one we've done. And then the other products that we're going to have on air today, they're already there. They're on pre-order. So in a minute, we've got some fantastic fabric for you to buy. So all of them are there, much easier to buy. So it's often easy at the beginning of the show. If you see something you like, pop it in your basket then, and don't forget to check out because for the really popular items, they go ever so quickly. And once you've put it in your basket, it's not yours till you've checked out. But remember, you can check out more than once in a day. But if you don't want to go on the website, you can phone our call centre. It's 0800 001 4433. And that is a UK call centre. They're ever so helpful. I phoned them up yesterday to order something and they were really kind. Really, really nice. Don't forget as well, today we have a channel change. We've moved. So it does mean that you will have to retune. So if you're watching me on the TV at the moment, that's fine, you've already done it. If you're watching me on the web, then just don't forget you need to retune your TV to channel 72. So we've just jumped a couple, just for, I don't know why we have actually. We just have. We're just moving up in the world. We've gone from 74 to 72. So don't forget that if you're going to watch us on the TV, you need to retune. But everything else is exactly the same. We haven't got to do anything. We're not moving anywhere. We've just jumped a couple of channels. So let's see what we've got coming up today. At 8 o'clock, we've got fabric favourites. So we've got lots and lots of different fabric for you. We've got a whole selection, all different sort of styles and colours and prints and designers. Really lovely ones, a really good stash building hour. 9 o'clock, we've got Katharine Wright who's on air with a Moda algorithm quilt. It's a beautiful quilt. It's called algorithm. I think it's because it's all very maths orientated, but it's a beautiful blue and red, really fresh fabrics that she's going to show you how to make the quilt with. At 10 o'clock, I'm on with Amber Makes doing the craft storage set. Now, last week I was on at 10 o'clock and we did the needle case and we sold out really, really quickly. We obviously didn't make enough of them. So this week we have spent a bit of time getting all the kits back together. So we've got the needle cases back on air. And today I'm going to show you how to make and how to buy the matching craft storage set. 11 o'clock, we got Katharine back on doing a folded style, which is a beautiful technique where you fold all the fabrics together and then sew them together. It's a lovely, lovely craft. You'll really enjoy that hour. We've got 3 different colourways. And then at 12 o'clock, we've got Yarn Lane and we've got Helen Ingram back with us today from Woolly Chic, where she's showing us some cosy knits using some beautiful, beautiful British yarn. So that's a whole knitting hour. You'll really enjoy that. Anyway, that's what's coming up today. But to start with, we have got fabric. Whoa, we've got a lot of fabric. Now, we're going to start off with the biggest and the best one. Let me move these scissors. This is the cashmere range. It's by Free Spirit and it's the Sanderson range. Now, anyone who knows soft furnishings, I always think of soft furnishings from the 70s. We always used to have at home. We had Sanderson curtains and wallpaper. It's one of those quintessentially English fabric brands. Anyway, Free Spirit have used the Sanderson catalogue and worked with them to create this whole range of fabrics through 14 prints that we've got in it today that echo, and they've gone through their libraries and chosen sort of the popular ones. And it's a journey of sort of floral fabrics through the ages from the beginning of their catalogue all the way up to sort of more present day. So it covers a lot of the arts and crafts movement. But it is, I mean, I'm sure loads of you will remember or had it in your homes. I certainly did at home, all the Sanderson prints. And Sanderson to me is huge sort of quality. It's all the prints have got a lot of heritage to them, and the colours and the history behind them. But when I show you through these fabrics, I'm sure it will bring back lots of great memories of the Sanderson, because Free Spirit have taken their catalogue and created this range for you. It's called the Cashmere range. So we have got today for you, first time on air, a whole bundle of 14 half meters. Now, this is obviously more of a considered purchase, £103.99. But there are 7 meters of fabric in this. Anyone who's ever bought Free Spirit fabric will know the quality. It is beautiful 100% cotton fabric. Your normal 112 centimeters, 44-inch width. So it's the quilting weight, but it is just fantastic quality. It's beautifully soft and beautifully smooth. And for this price, you get half a metre of every single one of them. It is a thing of beauty. So shall we start at the top? At the top. So we are going to be selling them in a minute. I'm just going to go through all of them for the bundle of 14 half meters, but we will be also in a minute selling them individually by the half meter. So if you're only interested in one or two of them, don't want the whole bundle, we will be selling them by the half meter as well. So should we start with this one? This is beautiful. It's so soft. I mean, it is quilting cotton weight, but it is ever so soft. This is so 70s, isn't it? Real classic paisley print. This is so Sanderson, isn't it? It's got a beautiful sort of soft purple, like an aubergine background. And then the paisleys are in burnt oranges and reds and creams. I'd quite like a shirt in this. It's absolutely stunning, isn't it? But in a quilt, what's lovely about it, if you were using it to cut small pieces like triangles, if you were doing half square triangles, you would get different, as you cut it, you would get different parts of the print. So if you cut one, you'd get purple, another one you'd get more of an orangey or a mustard ochre tone. But it's just beautiful, isn't it? I love the swirl of the paisley. And you can see when you look at it, you know, all the different elements, all the leaves and the swirls and the paisleys and the flowers all within it. It's a very, very intense print. It's beautiful, isn't it? So that's the first one. And then the second print. Love this one. Oh, they're chatting to me now. They're chatting. Oh, morning, Kat. Good morning. Kat's in and out. In and out today. This one is lovely. This sort of feels very Moroccan tile, doesn't it? It's it's just a 2-colour print, but it's beautiful in its simplicity. It's got a very burnt orange background and a rich cream to make all of the steps, but it is a very mosaic print. Again, you know, it's ideal. You could use it for dressmaking or even in bags or homeware, that sort of thing. It'd be ideal for that. But in a quilt, it's lovely because it's quite a low volume print. Whatever point you cut at it, you would get different things. It's a really good, I love these geometric prints, that they're very useful for changing direction. So if you cut squares or triangles, as you turn them round, then the fabric print flows in a different way. But it is just lovely, isn't it? Very sort of Moroccan tile. But the colour, the burnt orange in that is exactly the same as the burnt orange in the paisley print that I just showed you. So should we have a look at this one? This really makes me think Sanderson. That is beautiful, isn't it? Am I upside down? Yeah. I'm going to turn round. So this one is lovely. It's a real duck egg blue background, and it features on it all these beautiful birds, almost a botanical print you've got figs and pomegranates and oranges all sort of cut in half like you would, you know, when you see botanical prints and they show cross sections of them. And then these beautiful big flowers and crab apples and rose hips all over it. This would be fantastic for dressmaking. It would make a lovely, like a dressing robe or a blouse or a really pretty sort of summer dress. But You could make a dress with it where you teamed it, maybe made the bodice in a navy blue and the skirt in this. It's quite a large scale print, so you wouldn't want to make anything too small with it. You could use it in quilting, but think homeware. If you made, with 1/2 metre of this, you could make 2 cushions with it. And this is just one of the prints that you get in your 14 1/2 metre bundle. But all of the prints go together. But on its own, I mean, this is just a really stunning piece. It is so Sanderson. I bet a lot of you remember having wallpaper or curtains of this in your home. There's so much interest in it. You could use it for fussy cutting as well, or applique. So when you look at some of the, look at this one, I think this one's a fig. But you could just cut that out and applique onto something, or you could use it for EPP. There's lots of little different elements. So it's a very multi-use fabric, but it is very classic. It's a real stunning print. I love that one. I think it's the duck egg background I like the most about it. And then the next one. This has got... Right, we are getting very low on the bundles now. So we've only got 3 left. So if you are interested in the bundle, you need to put it in your basket and check out, or we will sell out. But remember, we are selling them by the 1/2 metre. So I'm going to go through all of them anyway, so you can choose which, if you want to buy them as a 1/2 metre, which ones you like the best. So this one has got a slightly darker blue background to the last one. If I just put it next to it, you can see. So this is more of that was the duck egg blue. But the 2 blues blend together really well. There's a lot of colours in this print. They sort of echo in here. So you've got the browns and the greens and these lovely soft denim-y type blues. But that's a really lovely big scale print. That does make me think of the Sanderson wallpaper. We've got a nether paisley print here. Exactly the same as the first one, but in lovely tones of duck egg and ochre and that really bright fuchsia pink. In fact, it looks quite different when I look at it on the camera from what you can see, because it's overhead. You get a different scale of the print, but they are really big. Look at the size of these prints. If I put my hand on it, they're like 2 hands worth. They're really big paisies. There's a lot you could do with these. And remember, what's great about them is when you cut them up, if you're using them for patchwork, you get lots and lots of colours. So in 1/2 metre, you can have a little flash of the blue or the ochre gold colour. And then the next one is the same as the... This is the same as the Moroccan towel from the burnt orange, but this is more of a denim blue. It's absolutely stunning, isn't it? And all of the colours in this collection, they all blend together. So you could easily make something from all of them, or just handpick, if you want to buy it by the 1/2 metre, the ones you like. But if everyone who's got it in their basket checks out now, then it's gone. But look how beautiful those 2 go together. If I was buying them by the 1/2 metre, I think those are the 2 that I'd buy. They're just lovely. And then this one's completely different. This one, I love this one. The colour in the background is a really sort of greeny chartreuse yellow colour. It's very classic. If I had this one, I'd make this into a blouse. That would look really lovely. Just a really pretty summer short sleeve blouse would look amazing in this. But when you look at the print, you can see each of the flowers is sort of formed in a diamond, and you've got 3 or 4 different shades of quite a bright, vibrant pink. But then you've got this really soft tealy bluey green that makes all the leaves. And then the next fabric, if I put the 2 together, they go together beautifully, don't they? They're really echoed. The darker pink that are in these flowers is really echoed in here. But, if you just wanted to quickly update your sofa and make a couple of cushions in that, that's lovely. Or a tote bag, or just the lining for something. If you lined a bag in that, it would look amazing. Really like that one. And then this one, this is very Sanderson, isn't it? Because I think I always think of Sanderson as these very large scale prints, because maybe it's the sort of the wallpaper and the curtain fabric. Beautiful colours though. These sort of very muted burgundies, ochres, browns, purples, aubergine colours are very on trend at the moment. They give a real warmth to your home. So if you were going to make some homeware with this, it really just gives that warmth. And you could choose what part of the print you wanted to highlight the most. Absolutely perfect for applique. If you press some Bondo web to the back of one of these large flowers and cut that out, you could applique that then onto something else and work some embroidery on it, because there are so many different colours. You could just outline some of the areas in backstitch, or if you just decide I just want some of the areas to show out, if you got some matching stranded cotton, you could just embroider, do some satin stitch over certain areas, and it will give it that 3D quality. And I think that's what's lovely about these large scale prints, is that they are so multi-purpose, because there's a lot of different elements. You can use them for many different crafts, and these colours are lovely. There's this, I'm going to come out of order a bit, because this one here has got the same colours in it. And I want to show you all of them, because remember, we can buy them by the half metre as well. That one as well. And then this one, these three fabrics, these blend really well together. They're all in the same colour family. Look at those three together. All different size prints. This is a much smaller print. But the three fabrics, they blend really well together. But remember, if you buy the mega bundle, you will get all of these. And we will go through them by the half metre as well. This is the same as that duck egg blue one that I showed you, I think the second one I showed you. But again, this has got a really rich cream background. It's got the sort of the botanical print idea of the pomegranates and the figs and the oranges and the birds all over it. But it goes beautifully with the other burgundy fabrics that I just had. It's really nice sometimes to put them all together so you can see how it blends. But that collection of fabrics just looks lovely together. You've got really lovely tones in there. And then the final two fabrics, this is the same print that we saw with the chartreuse background, but this has got a really sort of taupe, beigey colour background. And the flowers this time have got purple leaves, and then this really nice dusky pink colour for the flowers. That's a lovely one. And then the final one is the same as one of the burgundy ones we just showed you. Yes. So these last two are these two we can't buy by the half metre. We can only get these in the bundle. All the other 12 you can buy by the half metre, but these two you can only get in the bundle. I love the really rich midnight blue background, because doesn't it make the pink and the green of the flowers and the leaves really stand out? But that's very Sanderson. It's lovely, isn't it? So these two are the only two. I'm going to put those to one side because these two you can't get by the half metre. So let's just run through the others. So now we've been through the bundle. If you want to get these by the half metre, right, this is the first one. So I'm going to go through them in sort of colours. This is the aubergine goldy burnt orange colourway. So this one, these are £7.49 for half a metre. And remember, this is quilting cotton, but it's beautiful, really good. It's the Free Spirit. It's beautiful quality, very soft. I've worked quite a lot with the Free Spirit fabrics. They are lovely to sew with because they cut nicely and they press very well. And all of you who sew out there, you know what I mean. When you're sewing with quality cotton fabrics, when you sew and press them, they're a little bit more forgiving, and they cut well. And when you press the seams open or you press them to one side, they sort of go with you. They're not fighting against you, and the colours go together really well. So there's that one. That goes beautifully with this one. It's got the same coloured background as the first one, but it features all these golds and ochres. Let me just smooth it out. That's the lovely paisley effect one. Okay. Then the next one I'm going to do is this one. because I'm going to do these in sort of colours. This has got a lovely, very soft, muted, almost a beigey brown colour with a bit of a purple overtone is the background. But it's very soft, so it makes the oranges and the aubergines and the creams really stand out. The code on that one is PRU135. Right. Now, this one, so this one, okay, so this one is not available with a 1/2 metre. I've got confused, so I'm going to put that one down there. But then the cream version, again, this is why I'm going through this selection. That's lovely, isn't it? I want to actually hold it out so you can see the whole print, because just on the overhead you can't see the whole thing. You can see it much better. Remember, this is just a 1/2 metre. If you want more than 1/2 metre, you just put more than, so if you want a metre, put 2 in your basket, and it will be, your fabric is all cut to order, so you won't be sent 2 1/2 metres, you'll be sent a whole metre. So if you want 3 metres of this, put 6 in the basket, and you will be sent a whole 3 metre piece, because it is cut to whatever you want. You won't be sent it in individual 1/2 metres. It's just I've only got 1/2 metre here to show you. But isn't it beautiful? You almost feel like you want to put it on your walls, put fabric on your... people used to do that, didn't they? Keep your house warm. Be a very expensive way of wallpapering. This one is the bird print, and I've got it upside down. What's this one called? Paradisia. But it's got a really lovely, very, very warm cream background. I love the birds. They're all these beautiful tail feathers. My favourite, I think, are the oranges. The little half oranges. I think they're really nice. And then the final one in this sort of, this colourway of oranges and aubergines is the lovely Moroccan tile print. So just open out. There we go. It's a really lovely fabric. Just because it's very, very simple, this fabric. It's got a real, you know, it is just the sort of Moroccan tiles, but the way it's designed and the fact, it almost looks like it's been sort of hand coloured in. It's not just a solid colour. There's a lot of depth to it and movement, which is always really useful when you're using things. It's a very good, very lovely, considered print. So those are all the aubergine and orange fabrics. I'm just going to move them, and now I'm going to go on to the blues. So I love this. So let's do the same one. This is the Paradisio, but with a duck egg blue. This is very popular. There's only one. Gosh, we've already sold loads of these already, because this is just such a classic range of fabrics. So I think we've only got one of those left. That's beautiful. Let's take the next blue one. Got a message. Who have we got a message from? Morning. Are the Amber Makes Needle Cases kit on today? I missed getting them last week. Yes, they are. Yes, they are back on today. We'll be running through them at 10 o'clock when I do the craft storage case that matches with it. Yes, they're on it. They will be on 10. This is another beautiful one, slightly darker blue background, but again, really stunning large flowers with all the sort of the pinks and blues and greens. But I like the green. It's not just a normal green. It's a beautiful sort of chartreuse green in a light and a dark. This is very, very low in stock again. I don't know where they're all going. I'm going to just show you this one because this features exactly the same colour in the background as the other. So these set of fabrics go together really well. Actually, this has definitely got a way up, and it's that way up. But that's beautiful, isn't it? But when you look at it very closely, they're not just pink flowers. They've got about 4 different shades. It's almost sort of watercolour. The way all of these fabrics have been coloured in and printed, it has a real sort of watercolour wash effect to all of them. This one here, this has exactly the same pink. So this is a really lovely, if you were going to buy them together, these two blend together beautifully. Can you imagine making a tote bag in one of these and using one as the outer and one as the lining, or one as the strip on it, or making the handles? So you could do the main fabric in this print, and then you could put the base and a top strip in the handles in this pink fabric. It's just really lovely. It would look ever so expensive, wouldn't it? So if you bought 2.5 meters, you could make quite a few bags that would look really expensive. Lovely Christmas presents as well. Instead of wrapping something, just make them a tote bag and put it in, and they get 2 presents for the price of one. Lovely thing to do. And I really like this one. This one goes together with those other 2 fabrics. If I pull them down like that, you can see how well those 3 fabrics go together, because they've got all the same colours in them. You've got the beautiful paisley print in here with the, like a very, very subtle sea green sort of turquoise colour in the paisley, and a gold in the purple, and it's got that nice pink detail which is echoed in this one here. The sort of the pink outline is in this one. But it's, if you go on the website and you scroll down between Watch Live, if I'm confusing you because we've got so many different fabrics, you can see a picture of all of them and the codes. So if you're not sure, if I'm going through them too fast and you can't remember which one you want to buy, you see them all on the website, and you can have a look at them individually to see which ones go together. But these 2, well, in fact, those 3, they all blend beautifully together. Look at those. That's lovely. And then the final one is this lovely Moroccan print, but in a blue. In a blue. That's lovely, isn't it? But actually, that's the blue and the pink. I'll put those 2. They go really well together, don't they? I think it's always nice to buy fabric in pairs. It's a bit like, you know, when you go shopping, if you buy a top and then you realise you haven't got a skirt to go with it, or you haven't got shoes. I always find with fabrics, I like to buy them in 2s or 3s, so that I know I'm not just buying a standalone fabric. I know I've got something that's going to go together. So even if I haven't got something planned for it right now this minute, later on when I decide what I'm going to do with it, I have got something that goes with it. So if I think, well, I want to make something with the blue, maybe I'd like to make a cushion with it because it would look lovely. Kitchen or outdoor furniture for the summer. If you wanted to put a bit of binding on it, this pink would bind it beautifully, or if you wanted to put a board around something. So it's quite nice often to buy fabric in 2s or 3s, because then you know that it'll all go together. Anyway, this Sanderson fabric, unsurprisingly, is proving to be very popular. I'm sure there are a lot of you who are remembering Sanderson back in the day. And isn't it lovely that it's all been brought back to you, not as curtain fabric this time, but as quilting fabric. It's often a shame, isn't it, that there were some beautiful prints in curtain fabric that you just can't use for quilting. But like Liberty have done, and they've bought it as quilting fabric. And I think it's just a really nice thing, because, you know, they've got back catalogues of all of these beautiful prints, and it's a shame that us quilters can't use them. Well, you can now. I'm going to try and fold them up, because I've got all the others I've just got in a big pile beside me. They're going to take time, aren't they? My favourite one is this one, though. I love that one. I love that. I don't know whether we've got any left. Have we got any left of that one? But that is my favourite one. Anyway, if you have a look on the website, because I know I've gone through them reasonably quickly, below the Watch Live, you can see. So let's go Tula Pink, completely different. Free Spirit again, same brand, but Tula Pink this time. So let's have a look. Should we open it up? So in this pack, you have got, is it 16 fat quarters. I just got to undo that thing. A close-up of me undoing. So 16 fat quarters. Now, obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, a fat quarter, because this is US, it's half a yard of fabric cut in half again. So it's 20 by 22 inches. I'll open one out so you can see what the size looks like if you've not used fat quarters before. So they cut half a yard of fabric and then they cut it half the other way. It's a really nice way of getting fabric. So look, you see there's the selvage, and then there's half a yard cut that way, and then half a yard going down that way. So 20 by 22 inches. It's a really nice way of having a smaller, I mean a reasonable size amount of fabric, but having a lot of colours. And the beauty of fat quarter packs is that, you know, because they always come from the same fabric collection, you know all the colours go together. And this is a lovely collection. It features lime, bright blue, turquoise. And quite often you will get the same prints but in different colourways. So those two prints, but as you see, as I'm going through them, you can see how they all blend together. I'm going to open this one up because this one's really pretty. If I open this one up, this has got, do you want to have a look at it? It's got Tula's real signature little birds. She features these birds in loads and loads of her prints, but it's got all of these stars, and I think they're starlings. It must be because they're fat quarter pack star, but that's really pretty. So it's all the colours of the rainbow, but you've got birds and stars, all different sorts of stars all over it. I love that one. On a sort of a really, quite a sharp lemon fat colour background. So let's put that one in so you can see how that goes. They all go together. And we've got this lovely, very periwinkle blue with a turquoise, like a paper cut print. The very classic Tula spot. This is beautiful, real strong aqua background with these sort of goldy mustard coloured spots. There's lots of Tula fabrics that she features this spot in, and what I like about it is it's a big spot. It's not your little polka dot, it's a big proper size spot. But there's so many different books and patterns that you can buy that use these fat quarters. What a lovely, bright, fun selection on a dreary, foggy day like today. See, we've got now these three prints, but all in different colours. You've got the lovely honeycomb geometric print in the sort of the, like a yellow, but a soft yellow colour with the turquoise. And then you've got it in the green with the pink hexagons, and then blue with darker blue hexagons. So you can see now we're getting the colour palette. They're all blues and greens, but bright blues and vibrant greens. And then this is the same, like paper cut. So £3.47, this works out as £3.47 per fat quarter, which is amazing value. £4.37, £4.37 per fat quarter for Tula Pink is very, very good value. I love this one because it does feel like paper cuts, this one. But I do love, I don't know how she chooses her colours. And it's often, I find the colours quite hard to describe because they're not just yellow, they're sort of a vibrant yellow. She mixes a lot of colours together. Another of my favourites, there's the spot. But look at that one, it's like a really periwinkle blue, but with raspberry, strawberry pink spots. That's stunning, isn't it? And what's lovely in this, so in this fat quarter pack, all these colours, the blues and the greens go together, and then she throws in a splash of red just to break it up, just to add a bit of difference. But it works. And that's the lovely thing, is that if you struggle at all with colour selection, you think, well, I really want to make something, but I don't know what colours together. These have all been worked out. This is from one collection. So they do all go together. Then you've got this lovely grassy green and a stripe, two stripes. And all of those, and then you've got this final one has got the red stripe that's in the spot. Beautiful, isn't it? But that whole, so you can use them individually, or you could make some with all of them and you know they'll go together. But it's a lovely collection to have and to own, because you've always got something if you want to use them for the projects. Maybe you just want to put a bit of binding around something and you use them that way. I mean, some of the fat quarters packs I've got, I do make them into whole things, but I like to keep the whole pack, because then there's always something when you just need an extra piece to go, or another colour. You've got a great selection. These design rolls. Okay, so I've got two design rolls for you here. This one, no, it doesn't have a code on it. So this is a design roll, and which means all the strips, it's all pre-cut, all the strips are 2.5 inches wide. So which is great, isn't it? Because there's lots of books and patterns you can buy and have that we use design rolls, so you can make whole quilts. But also this is the perfect size for binding. So if you want to bind the edge of the quilt and you want it to be 1/2 inch once it's finished, 2.5 inches is a really good width that you can bind your quilt and have a bit extra to go around the back of it to make it sew on. So shall I, rather than opening that, I've got them all in here. So these are plain fabrics, but they're not just plain, they've got a real sort of mottled print to them. but there's sort of texture to them. If you look at them really close up, you can see it better on these lighter fabrics. They are plains, but they have got this sort of watercolour texture to them, which gives them just a bit more 3D and a bit more movement. But you've got, does it say on the thing, 40 pieces of all sorts of colours. You know, you've got all the colours of the rainbow in here. You've got green, mauve, pink, dark pink, orange, bright blue, greens, browns, greys. So this is a great selection. So you could use these to make the most fantastic rainbow quilt. Join them all together end to end to end, and bind your whole quilt in loads of colours. If you need them to do binding for different things, you've got all sorts of colours. So you can just dip in and out of this design roll to use for different things. Perfect for Bargello, because you've got so many different colours. And remember, these are all cut across the full width of the fabric, so they're all 112 centimetres, 44 inches in width, every single one of them. But what I like about them is that they're not just plain, they have got this mottled effect to them. But that's a lovely design roll for £29.99. That's fantastic value. But, you know, use it to make something really stunning and striking, or keep the pack and just pick them when you need it for the edge of something. Maybe you want to make handles for a bag. You know, you've got one of these will easily make, well, probably you could make two, but if you're making a tote bag, you know, that's long enough for the handle on one side. So you've got handles ready made and ready cut here. You just have to sew them together. So that's that design roll. And then we've also got, if you fancy floral instead, we've got a floral design roll here. So this features plains and florals. So it comes all packaged like that. So if I show you round, you've got plain, pink, and purple, green and blue. And then it goes, God, I just forgot my words then. Then it goes into florals of yellow, red, green. You've got mauve, cream with floral flowers, blues and pinks. If I just take them all out, they're different levels of print as well. So you've got plains, you've got the larger florals like this one in the mauve, and then you've got the smaller floral prints like this green one. Then you've got the plains, and that's the same plain mottled in the other one. And then there's another floral, but then you've got a lovely red one. So there you've got different scales of prints. I really like this pretty, love this pretty one here. Isn't that lovely? I'll put that one in the middle because I like that one. That's lovely. And you've got pink and green. And there's a yellow one in here somewhere as well. So you've got all the colours of the rainbow, but pastel, more pastel colours, and these lovely prints. So for binding things, because they're ready cut, they're lovely. For making your design roll quilts, perfect. Handles, binding, straps, all sorts of things. Join them all together, sew them all together in one thing and make a fantastic rainbow wall hanging. But there's also colours. Well, what I like about this is it's not just your sort of primary rainbow prints. There's all the colours of the spectrum, but with these really pretty florals. And I like the way that they've put just a few plains in there as well to just add a little bit of movement and balance to the whole quilt if you were going to make a whole quilt with them. Almost seems a shame to undo it all, doesn't it? Because you never get them back again. I've tried. They never go round. But let me show you all the way around. Aren't they lovely? Remember, so each of these strips, there's 40 pieces. They're all 2.5 inches wide, and they all cut across the full width of the fabric. So let me pop these all back in the bag before we get confused. I'm going to have to do that a bit neater because they're going to be really creased, aren't they? This one here. So we've got a lovely pastel bundle for you here. There's five half meters of fabric, so 2.5 meters in total. These would go really well with either of those two design rolls. So you've got 0.5 meter cut across the full width of the fabric. You've got, these are all very pastel, pretty colours. You've got a pastel mauve, pink, blue, green, and a yellowy cream, so more of a lemon colour. Ideal for any baby makes you want to do. If you've got a new baby coming and you want to make something for the nursery, all of these would go together really well. And at £15.45, you save £2 We've only got 2 of these left if everyone checks out. But these are great for those sort of nursery prints, aren't they? If you wanted to make something for, a baby changing bag, or a mat, or, a cot quilt, or even, clothes, little dresses. But those are just a lovely selection, and you know that we've chose them. So although they're all different colours, they have the same weight of tone of colour, which is important, because you don't want, if you're making something that you want to really go together, you don't want too many different weights of tones, but they are all exactly, and you don't have to think about, are they going to go together? When you see fabric singly on a website, you're never really sure, but this pastel colours go really well together. I like these. So which one should we do next? These 2. So if you fancy some prints instead, I've got 2 here, and we've got plains and prints that go together. So you've got half a metre of each. We'll do this one first. No, we're not. We're going to do that one first. We're going to do that one first. I'll come back to that one. So £8.49, and you get 2 half metres, which is a really good price. So this one, yeah, because normally they're £7.49 for half a metre, but this is £8.49 for 2 half metres. You've got a really lovely, soft, deep pink colour with these really pretty flowers. They're like sort of big splashy daisies and little leaves here and there. But then in the bundle as well, you have half a metre of plain, which is actually, this rose colour is the same colour as the little spots that are in here. So these 2 go together. So if you wanted to buy something where you wanted to have the plain to do the binding or the lining or the handles or the edging, these 2 go together really well. So if you like the print in the background here, then the plain that goes with it. So as I said earlier, it's always really nice to buy fabric in 2s or 3s, because then you know you've got something to go with it. We've selected it for you, so you haven't got to think about, oh, which colour, I need a plain to go with that, which one goes. You know that these 2 go together because they've been selected for that. And then I've got the other one, I can do this time, that's got the blue, exactly the same print, but a real aqua greeny blue. It's called Flower and Dot, this one, by Stoff. And I like Stoff fabrics because they're a good price, but they're a nice quality. Quilting weight quality, but very nice, soft. Exactly the same, but with this sort of bluey kind of background. But again, it's got the same pink, but it goes together really well. You get a completely different contrast than in the last bundle, but it really shows off against it. The 2 of them go together really well. You could do some really simple patchwork with this, just squares or even half square triangles. It would look really lovely, but it's nice to buy them the 2 together because you know that they go, and that's £8.49 for the 2 half metres. But count this one. I love these. So this is a bundle of 1, 2, 3, 4 half metres. We're going to have to go through these individually because I love them. This is the VW camper van fabric. Look at that. So these are available by the half metre. Okay, this is the first one. This is called Classic Campers on Black in multi. So you could use this fabric to make one whole thing with. Maybe you wanted to make some cushions for your camper van or little curtains, or you could cut them out individually. So if you know somebody who loves VW, loves the camper vans, you'd like to make them a gift of something to go that could go in their van. If they've got a camper van, they make great cushions or a little bag, or you could cut them out individually and applique them onto things. But that's lovely, isn't it? So that is Classic Campers on Black in multi. And then this one, oh, this is for anyone who loves caravanning. These are real old retro. In fact, it's called retro campers. But these are really old, really the old-fashioned caravans. I love them. They look like they're flying. They're sort of all going in different angles. And what's lovely about this is that it's a multi-directional print as well. So you don't have to have it necessarily going one way. But isn't it lovely? You've got some upside down, some the right way. But I like the blue in the background of here. It's that real sort of 1950s blue. The colour they used to have in people's kitchens in the 50s. But it is very, very retro. And it's perfect for anyone who loves caravanning. This is the print for them. The next one is... Oh, these are classic camper vans. It looks like they've got surfboards on top. So this is, the background of this is a sort of a deep charcoal. It's not black like the last one, it's more muted. Looking on screen, it looks black, but it isn't, it's a dark grey. And then the colours of the van's very primary. You've got lime and orange and pink and blue, purple. And again, multi-directional print, but that's a really fun print, kind of, if you wanted to get something for younger, like almost, well, it's very retro, so it would appeal to anybody who remembers these, but it's all the sort of that surfer vibe. And then finally in this selection, remember these are only available by the ½ metre, but if you want more than ½ metre, I absolutely love this one. It looks like sort of advertising posters from the 1950s, doesn't it? But it's all the camper vans on the beach, and you've got the palm trees, and on this one you've got a little table with drinks on it and surfboards. But you could use this, it'd be great for a border print because it all is in stripes. So you could cut it out and use it to put on the borders on the top or the bottom of something or around the edges. Or you could just use it as it is, or use it and cut out individual things. You could cut out each element as a square and re-sew them back together as patchwork. Maybe use a plain fabric like this dusky blue in the background or a sky blue in between it. Very multi-purpose, but the actual images, they are very photographic, but it is that whole sort of surfing on the beach with your surfboard. Even this van here has got the window open. It must be a burger van because it's got all the ketchup there. But that's lovely, isn't it? It's really nice. I love pictorial fabrics. But if you like any of these fabrics, and I was saying it'd be really nice to team this with others, use the prints, make the fabric go further by using plain fabrics to go with it. So we've selected these fabrics to go with it. So this is, you can use them with the other prints or just add them to your stash, but these colours go with all of the ½ meters that we've got here. So if I show them all together, you can see what I mean. So in this bundle, we've got black, purple, orange, a really bright yellow and a bright turquoise. It goes with any of these. Obviously, you don't have to buy them together, but if you've thinking of buying any of these prints, this plain bundle, £17.49 for 5 ½ meters, so 2.5 meters in total, they will go with any of these. So you could make something, the most amazing quilt for somebody if you bought a selection of the print fabrics and use the features, but make it go further by using the plain fabrics, or use one of them for the binding. If you wanted to make a cushion for somebody, these would make a lovely coloured binding if you cut strips of them and join them all together. So maybe if it was a cushion, I would probably only cut like 6-inch strips, join them all together for a multicoloured binding. But you know that we've chosen these colours because they all go beautifully. So if you look at the purple in this van, it goes with the purple there, but they all go together really well. So, we haven't got long left. What shall I do finally? I'm going to do the Tula Pink hexes. We did the Tula Pink the other week, but these are hexagons, pre-cut. How lovely is that? Now with hexagons, you can either use these for English paper piecing. So these, I think, are 4 3/4 inches. So you can use these with 4-inch hexes, but you could do them EPP, so you can cut out the hexagons from paper and sew them around. But you can also, these are big enough if you want to do machine pieced hexagons, which is a really nice thing to do. I learned how to do this a few months ago. I wasn't sure that you could put machine pieces. Not very easy with the small ones, but with these bigger ones. So this features all of the fabrics in the Tula Pink Lineworks range. You've got the black print, the black and white, and each of these prints has a real flash of colour. So it does look very black and white, but then when you look amongst them, like look at this one, that looks beautiful as a hexagon because it's got all the hexagons, but it's got all the colours of the rainbow in it. So if you could make the most stunning hexagon quilt from one of these. Or if you want something to do something a bit slower, you just make a cushion. That'd be great for if you want that kind of monochrome but with a bit of fun colour in it. You just need the 4-inch papers and you can sew all of these together. You'd make quite a big cushion. And this is one of my favourite ones. This is like part of Tula's design book, so it's got all of her notes on and sketches about how she designed the range. So in that pack you get 42 hexagons, all pre-cut, so you don't have to do it yourself, which makes it a lot easier, doesn't it? Oh, they're not very easy to get back in, are they? I've really messed it up now. but we'll sort it out. It's very hard. They package all these things so well. I know, you see, I can appreciate what it's like when you get it home and you get really excited and you look through them all and then you can't get them all back in. I'll sort of put them back in. Right, and then very quickly, I'm going to do the design roll, so this is the design roll, which has got 40 2.5-inch strips that are cut across the full width of the fabric. And once you've opened it, this is what it looks like. So if you haven't seen Tula's line work collection before, this is it. So this is that design roll here. That's the design roll once it's all opened up, and you can see all the lovely prints, real sort of illusion printing here. You've got these beautiful black and white with splashes of colour, and then you've got little panda faces, and you've got black and white stripes, and you've got this lovely graphic print, which is like sort of, this is her design book, isn't it? It's like graph paper with all of her pictures on, and you've got stripes and spots. And then when you get the patterned ones, they've got all different animals and birds, but then you've got these splashes of rainbow colours throughout all of them. And then you've got just black and white spots. There's the panda print. I think you get 2 of each of them. And then this one looks like a plain fabric, but it isn't. It's got all the birds printed on it, which you can't see very well in the white, but it's exactly the same. If I show you it in the black, you can see, can you see that? That they've got all the birds and stars printed on. So the white, when you see it, when you get it home, you'll see it's got all of that printed on the white as well. So all of those, you get 2 of each. I love the hexagon one. When I showed you in the hexagons, you didn't see it as well, but look how all the colours of the rainbow are just graduated down. What a beautiful thing. I think if I was going to buy this, I love the zebras, look, they're all coloured in. I would make a quilt from these because they are stunning. They all really blend together ever so well. Just sew them together in strips. Beautiful. Love that pack. So, whoa, where's that hour? Where has that hour gone? So, we have got coming up in just a few minutes' time, Katharine is going to be showing us how to make this beautiful quilt that's behind me, actually. So I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere.
If you'd like to get in touch with us during our live show and send in any messages or any questions, then you can do it on studio@sewingstreet.com. Alternatively, you can message us on our official Facebook page.
Hello, I'm Katharine Wright. I'm from Leicestershire Craft Centre, which is based in Market Harborough. I love all kinds of sewing, but probably my favourite thing to do is dressmaking. But I also teach patchwork and free motion embroidery and anything to do with textiles, really. I love to have a go at felting and crochet and knitting and, oh, you name it, I'll have a go at it. So I started sewing when I was 7. My mum taught me to sew, and the very first thing I made was an apron. But I'm a terribly impatient person. I just want to get on with the project. So I didn't wait for her to help me cut it out, and I cut it out myself, and I didn't know you had to have a seam allowance. So I made the world's smallest apron, and my mum still has it somewhere. Sewing tips, I would say, I teach a lot of people to sew, especially beginners, and I would say don't get disheartened. Take your learning journey slowly. Don't expect to suddenly make a ball gown or suddenly make a king-size quilt. Build up your skills, slowly. And I would also say that iron is your friend. Use your iron a lot. It makes your sewing look so much better. It helps you get things in place where you want it before you sew, and is a really handy thing to have.
Hi, I'm Debbie Shaw from Sewing Street, and these are my 5 top tips for successful sewing. So, number 1, always use a good quality thread. A good quality thread will keep your seams stronger and also help to prevent lint building up inside your sewing machine. Tip number 2, if your project isn't going quite according to plan, put it down, walk away from it, come back again the next day, and you'll probably find that things don't seem half as bad as they did. My tip number 3, never throw away your sewing machine manual, always keep it to hand, because you're going to find hints and tips, techniques and troubleshooting in that manual. You'll miss it if you lose it. My tip number 4 is to read your pattern instructions before you even cut out your fabric. Different manufacturers of patterns will give you different instructions, different ways of constructing your garments and different seam allowances. So to have a successful garment, you need to follow the instructions precisely. And then tip number 5 is don't give up. Every professional sewer sewed their first seam. Every professional quilter quilted their first quilt. Every professional quilter sewed their first line of wonky stitches and had to get out the quick unpick. That's no different to you. So I hope you find these useful. We'll see you soon.
If you'd like to get in touch with us during our live show and send in any messages or any questions, then you can do it on studio@sewingstreet.com. Alternatively, you can message us on our official Facebook page.
Welcome back to Sewing Street. So I'm just running. I went to get a drink of water. So we've got Katharine on air with us now, who's going to show us how to make this amazing quilt that's behind him. We'll show it to you in just a minute. Using this lovely Stripology Squared book. I love that, but it's all very mathematical. I think that's why it's called Stripology Squared. So let me have a quick look through this before we go to the quilt. You've got all the general instructions at the beginning of the book. So if you've got a Stripology ruler and you want to get some more inspiration of what to do with it, or if you've not heard of Stripology and you'd like to see how it all works, this whole book, it explains to you. Basically, Stripology is all about cutting strips and then subcutting them. It's the whole rotary cutter thing. It's normal rotary cutter, ruler, mat, but the Stripology ruler has got slits already cut in it, so it's a lot quicker and a lot easier. And then there's lots of different quilts that you can make using it. And when you first look at the book, you think, oh God, is that really complicated? Is that all this? But it's not. It's really, really easy to understand. And you can create these stunning quilts. And what's lovely is that you can use you know, smaller bigger pieces of fabric or smaller ones, because you're cutting lots and lots of strips. So it's a bit more multi-purpose, but the really quick way of doing it. I love this one, quadrants. It's like they're all squares, but then they cut the corners off the squares and then turn them round. So it does feel quite mathematical, but the way it's explained it in the book, this one, velocity, that's fab, isn't it? That really has got a lot of 3D movement to it. The way that they've moved it, it looks like all the squares of squash, but it's just rectangles cut on the edge at angles. So what I like about this is that when you've made the quilt, it looks like you're really, really clever and that you've made this amazing thing. But because it is explained extremely clearly in the book, it's not actually as difficult as it looks. I mean, this one here, Matrix. That's amazing. I mean, I guess it's all down to colour choice as well, but there's a lot of help in here. You know, you can use the book as inspiration of what colours you can put together, so you don't have to think about it too much. I mean, it does look terribly complicated, but it really, really isn't. This is the one that we're doing, Algorithm, the one with the dog on, which looks, again, you know, you've got loads and loads of different colours going on, and we've got a design charm pack, layer cake. God, I couldn't get my word. A layer cake that we're going to use, as I'll show you in just a moment. But the book itself is, that's the book, £32 for the books. The Stripology Squared book by Gudrunel, that's £32. There's another one, Fraction. So you've got a lot in here. You've got loads and loads of different designs and inspiration. You've got like years worth of quilts in here. But it's really nice. If you like the whole sort of process of making a quilt, where you get the fabric, you cut it, you join it, you follow it step by step, then this book is definitely for you, because it holds your hand and takes you through the whole process and shows you how to do it. I love Polygon City because it looks like rows and rows of skyscrapers. And what's lovely about this is you choose your colour palette. So with this quilt, you could decide which sort of colours you were going to use, and you could use very close colours because you've got the background, and they're all divided by these very, very narrow borders. But that's a real, I mean, you could put it on your bed, but for me, that really is a piece of wall art. That's really lovely. Anyway, with the book that the design we're going to do today is using this, can I open it? Can I open it? Yeah, let's open it. So using this Moda now, if you've used Moda fabric before, you'll know what amazing quality it is. If you haven't used Moda fabric before, then it is brilliant quality. It's quilting weight fabric. This is brand new to us today. So in the, let me just remind myself, there are 42 10-inch squares, all pre-cut, and that's what you use to make the quilt that Catherine's going to show you today. So, but what's lovely is it's very spring and bright and cheerful. You've got lots of red, and then you've got these fantastic blues, make you think of the seaside, and really bright cherry reds, and then you've got a lot of floral prints that go with it, spots, flowers, little ladybirds, and again the colourway is coming through, so you've got the ladybirds with little blue dots around them. You've got stripes, they look like little surfboards. This quilt, I love this, and this looks like a man's shirt, doesn't it? A lovely check, but you've got different scales of print, so you've got like the large floral print on the front, and then you've got the smaller checks here. You've got spots, flowers. In a minute when you see the quilt, you see how they all look together, but it'd be brilliant to make as a picnic quilt because it's just so spring, or just as a little lap quilt, or ideal for children because it's bright, it's all reds and blues, it's just cheerful, isn't it? On a foggy day like today, gives you thoughts of spring. I love this one because when you first look at it, you think it's flowers, and then when you look inside, you realise it's not, it's little ladybirds, but they look like little flowers when you first look at it. It's just jolly. I like that one. That's the same print as the one on the front, but with the blue background. But they look lovely together. So you could just buy the layer cake for any other design you want, anything else you want to make. Not, if you just wanted to buy this without making the quilt that we're showing you, it is brand new on air with us today. And very, very large scale prints as well. So you've got a whole mixture, and that's what's always really good about buying layer cakes, is that you know that all of the colours and all the prints go together and hang together, so you can mix and match them in any way you want because the colour palette is the same. But also you've got different scales of prints, so you've got your big prints and you've also got your smaller low volume print, but each one in itself is a really lovely colour. But isn't it nice to see something so bright and cheerful? I love that one. Anyway, let's say hello to Catherine. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning on this lovely foggy day.
It is a bit foggy out there, isn't it?
Yes.
But lovely in here.
It is.
We are feeling a little
nice
springy with this fabric.
It is.
aren't we?
It's so cheerful. So now you can see behind Catherine, there's the quilt that she's made from the Stripology Squared book. They just go together beautifully, don't they?
They do. Do you know what? I really, really enjoyed making this.
Did you?
I did. Partly because the fabric just made me feel really, really cheerful while I was doing
really
it.
Cheerful.
I loved the colours, but I really liked this design as well, actually. It was a lovely, speedy quilt to do.
Was
If
it?
you want to whiz up a quilt in a weekend, this is the quilt. This is the
Wow.
quilt top for you. It's a really nice, speedy one. I really enjoyed it, actually.
Well,
Yes.
it's nice. I know loads and loads of our viewers that already have the Stripology rulers, so this is great if you've got that. But if you haven't got a Stripology ruler, the book does tell you.
It tells you all your cutting, so you could do it without. You'd be a bit slower, but that's fine. But you can still do it.
You don't have to have a
Absolutely.
Stripology
No, you
ruler to do
don't.
it.
You
could
don't.
just do it with a normal one.
Yeah.
So
So
where
I've
do
done
we start?
five of the rows of the lap quilt. You've got enough in your layer cake to do the whole lap quilt.
Okay.
What else is good about this particular book is that every quilt has 5 different sizes, from crib through to a queen
Wow,
size
that's really
quilt,
useful,
and
isn't
tells
it?
you all your quantities, so you can make whatever size you like, which I think
So
is
you've
brilliant.
so there's enough in here to make the lap quilt.
Yes.
Which is 49 by 60 inches. That's a big lap.
It is,
Isn't it?
Nice and snuggly.
That's a really nice
and
snuggly.
snuggly.
But
Yes.
again, I mean, you could make the crib quilt because that's smaller. But then it tells you in the instructions how to make a twin, a full and a queen. So you could
Absolutely.
use this layer cake and then add in some plain fabrics
If you
from your
wanted
own
to.
stash.
Yeah.
And you could make it bigger. So you can make these prints go further and make the whole thing. But it's really useful that because sometimes when you see books, there's the quilt size, but you want a different one.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I thought it was brilliant. And this one, you could tweak it yourself as well. Once you know how you're doing the block, you can make it whatever size you like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's
So
it's
how-
a good
where
one.
do we
So
start
how
with it
do we
then?
start? We start by taking our 10-inch squares and folding them in half, corner to corner, like this, so that we're turning them into a little triangle and giving them a press. And that crease is quite important for when we come to sew them. So I'll just do the last little 2 of my pile here. And I can just move the iron out the way to show you how to do your cutting. Okay, so we are going to line up our triangles. I'm going to do a couple at a time because you can with this.
Right, okay.
I mean, you can do it one at a time, but use your lines on your cutting mat, especially as well as the lines on your stripology ruler to get this nice and accurate. So I'm lining up along the bottom line there and making sure my point is on a line as well. And then if you have got your ruler, it goes on, now it's very important to get this right, the 7-inch line has to go to the point of your triangle. And then you cut through your 6-inch and your 8-inch. So you're cutting each triangle into 2 smaller triangles and a strip down the middle.
Okay.
So let's just... like so, haven't gone quite through it. It is, the one thing I find with the ruler, you do have to press quite hard just to get it through. I think because you're going through the little slit, actually. Let me just see if I can line that up again. Just to get that end. That's it. Okay. So you're going to put them into little neat piles so I know where I'm going.
I like this. So you fold your square in half and then you cut it into 3 pieces.
You cut it into 3 pieces. And then when we stitch them together...
Now, and do you do that with every square?
Yes, absolutely. They all get cut exactly the same. So I'm just going to cut a little stack because when we start to put them together, now you can think very hard about this and plan it all out if you want to, but I think a quilt like this actually it's random, and I think you want to approach it in a random way. You don't want to think too hard about which colour goes with. It would be very hard to
plan, wouldn't it?
It would. So I think that you just need to cut them up and get your piles of colours, and then you can just pick them up at random as you put them together into your blocks. I'm not quite getting through that last bit.
Because I think otherwise you sort of overthink it too much, don't you?
Absolutely.
I've done it before where I've laid it all out and then I move it round and then it's not right and I think, oh, I wish I just left it.
And I do really like doing quite just sort of random, just pick a piece up and see where it goes, because actually it quite often just works out really nicely, and you...
do you have to sort of make sure you don't put two
Well, I did try not to put sort of 2 dark blues together, 2 reds together. I tried to, you know, put a red next to a blue and then a light blue. So, and I think you've kind of got, I would say, equal quantities of each kind of colour.
Well, there are enough prints
that you can, and I tried not to put the same print next to each other as well.
Yeah, it's not like you're only dealing with sort of 4 or 5 prints, so you've got a lot of choice you can swap round.
So it was quite easy. I mean, when I'd done my cutting, I started putting a few together, and then while I was watching the telly, I actually sat and sort of put all the rest together and sort of picked them all up and chose what I was doing. So they were kind of all set together.
So you've got big triangles.
We've got a big triangle and a big central strip, and then another big triangle. So this is how you're going to put your blocks together. And you can see how then this central crease is the bit that you use to line up.
That's amazing that they
it's really clever, isn't it? Yes. So you have a little bit over the top, but yeah, so use that central point to match.
Ah, so that's why you have the crease.
That's why you have the crease, which is...
Oh yes, it says
clever.
Give them a press so they have a distinct crease through the centre.
Yeah. So we'll start putting some together, and you're sewing with a 1/4 inch seam along. Where's my foot pedal gone? Oh. Okay. And once you've got yourself sort of, you know, a few together, because I sort of sat and put together the colours that I wanted, then I could sit and sew a lot all at once. This is why I say you could get it done in a weekend. Because you can...
Yeah, so you pile, so because you're now making squares, you could pile up those squares.
Absolutely.
I guess the good thing about that is if you got to the end and pile and realised that you only had 2 left and they were the same colour, you could then easily swap them in for another.
Yes.
Although the chance of that happening is slim, but it could be that you get to the final one and they're the same
Which
colour.
would be really annoying, wouldn't it? Yes. So I think probably you might want to sort of just go through and go, okay, red with the blue.
Yeah.
And just
Pile them
make
up to
sure,
start with.
because also when you do things randomly, even if you're being random, you always pick out something because you like them more than others,
no, that's
don't you?
true. You're always going to have, well, in a layer cake like this, there's always going to be your favourite ones.
Yeah.
Although I think I'd struggle a bit with this.
It's such a nice bundle of fabrics.
I do like the ladybirds. I think I like the ones that look like flowers and then you realise they're ladybirds.
Yeah. But then you've got the little checks in there which don't stand out but just really sort of just provide a really nice contrast.
I like the blue and red one that looks like a man's shirt. That's
Yes.
a really lovely check.
So this is how your block looks when it's done. Okay, I'm going to stitch a couple more because in order to put them all together we need a few of them to show you the row and how the pattern comes. So we'll stitch a couple more and then I'll show you how to trim them all in order to get the little
So I
block
guess you end
size.
up with 40 of these. How many? Yeah, because you get one block from one. Do you get? Yes, you get one block from one square.
No, you get 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, each piece like that makes 2 blocks.
Right,
go
but
either-
from each one of these you get one block. Each hole.
Yes, possibly. I'm not
Yeah.
very good at maths,
Yeah.
Rebecca. You're taxing me there.
I think so. Because you get 3 pieces from each one and then each one's got 3 pieces. So
Yes.
So you must get 42. Is
It's
there
very
42?
early in the day for this sort of taxing.
Yeah, because you get
mathematical
for the
talk.
lap quilt, you get 40. Yeah, because
Yeah.
when you cut each one of these into 3 and then you join it together in 3, so you get 4. You have to do it 42 times to do the lap quilt.
I'm going to say yes and agree with you totally
Yeah,
because
no,
I
no.
think that sounds right.
So if you made the cot quilt, the crib quilt, you only need 30, so you'd have 12 left over. So you could make cushions as well to match.
Yes, you could. Absolutely. Let's put this one in. Oh, I haven't cut that one. I'm picking up off the wrong pile. Where's my piles gone? Here we go. I quite liked that all the titles of the quilts were mathematical. It made me feel more mathsy than I really am.
So this one's called Algorithm. Algorithm. I like Matrix. That's an amazing
I really
quilt.
liked that city one. Is it the polygon
Yes,
one?
yeah.
Really liked
But from
that
this
one.
book, you see, they're all using these layer cakes. So you could make the matrix using this layer cake pack as well. So if you've got the book, you can choose which of the quilts you're going to make.
There are a lot of options. Yeah, it's a nice book. And very clearly explained how to do each pattern.
And some of them, like the Polygon City, uses a lot of plain fabric. So if you bought the layer cake, and you put plain fabric with it, you can make like a double bed size quilt with this layer cake and your own plain fabric, which is quite nice, really. Because then you can it makes it go a bit further then.
I always have a go at these lovely projects and think, oh yes, that'd
gonna
be
do
so nice.
that.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do
Gonna
that.
do that.
And my list of potential projects is very, very
I
big.
know, I'm the same. I'm always the same. And I come and I think, oh, I love that. I'm going to have that.
So many fantastic ideas and lovely things. And
Velocity.
some lovely quilt designs in there.
Well, I think it's nice that some of them just use layer cakes, but others put background fabric in it as well, which just makes it go a bit further.
So you can see that these are piecing together really quite nice and
really
quickly, aren't they?
So you sort of sort them all out into piles first to make sure that you're not putting the same ones together. Then you sew them all together.
Yes. And then we're going to, and we'll do one more, and then we'll press them and we're going to trim them and cut them. Again, I like patchwork that's clever like this. It's
Yeah,
clever, just one
yeah.
cut and it transforms it into something different.
And someone else has worked it all out for you.
Yes, because I really couldn't.
Yeah, because the whole book is 10 quilts made from 10-inch squares. Easy.
Except because each quilt's got like 5 different sizes, it's really like having 50 quilts almost, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So if you wanted to make a bigger quilt, you could make from this one, you could make, yeah, if you bought more than one of these layer cakes, you could just make one of the bigger ones. So the lap quilt uses 42 squares, which is 1 layer cake. The twin uses 94. So you just have to buy more of the layer cakes to do it. Or you could put some of your own fabric. If you cut 10-inch
You could put some
squares.
solids in, couldn't you?
Yeah,
you could
that
put a
would look
red
really
or
well.
a white or a blue.
If you bought some red, white and blue solids, cut it into 10-inch squares, then you could make an even bigger quilt, but use it to complement this.
Okay, let's pop my ironing board back up. I think it's, yeah, red, white and blue can sometimes be a little bit just too Union Jackish, but this isn't, is it?
No, I think it's because of the tone, isn't it? The blue is a very sort of vibrant, very strong blue. It's not Union Jack blue at all.
Now when you press these, you're going to press your seams away from the central strip.
Okay. Why do you have to do that then?
That's what she tells you to do.
Right. Okay. Is that probably just so that they all
I
nest
think
the
so.
other
There
way?
isn't a lot of seam matching, it has to be said. This is
Okay.
partly why I also liked this quilt. Because you didn't have to do a lot of tricky matching. I think it's just when you do press them, they kind of want to go that way.
They want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But you often find that, don't you, with when you press to one side,
Yes.
is that they always sort of want to go one way, which is really frustrating when you want them to go a different way.
Yes.
If you want them to go to the darker or the lighter side. I don't know why it is. Although you're sewing fabric right sides together, they always do want to go to one side or the other.
And at this point, it's absolutely fine if you've pressed out your initial creases. That's fine. You don't need them anymore.
Okay.
So
So
you
it's
do
just
want to
only
get them
for the cutting.
It is. It's for the cutting and for this first piecing part to get them meeting in the middle.
Well, at least it's sort of, because I guess a lot of this fabric is now being cut on the bias, so it's less stable. So
Yes. It didn't stretch too much because that can
Okay.
happen. I think that's because it is very nice quality.
well, it's
fabric.
Moda, isn't it?
Yeah. So a good press so that you get those seams nice and open, because it is important in your patchwork that you press things really nicely
Yeah.
open, isn't it?
Well,
And
it just makes it easy. It makes it lay
does.
flatter.
And then
when
you
you
need
piece
to
it.
arrange them. If I put this away, I can do it so you can all see. Now you need to then split your squares into 2 piles. One with your diagonal going that way and one with your diagonal going this way.
Okay.
So this is the little bit where you've just got to watch what you're doing so you get the right number going in the right direction.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to make a block A and a block B. So with the diagonal going from sort of left at the top down to the right corner. I'm going to swap that, else I'm going to have all the patterns going. No, actually I'm not, I'm going to leave it. We'll line them up.
Oh, so you can cut them in pairs then?
I think, yeah. Well, I did when I did the other
Okay.
one. Yes. I mean, if you're being really, really careful, yes, you can do it one by one. But I always like to get on with things.
But as long as you've got them lined up, then
Yes,
it's
so
fine.
just line them up neatly. And you're going to put, if you've got your Stripology ruler, we are lining up between the 0 and the 0 and the 9-inch on your ruler, just to trim them all down to the right amount. So I'm just going to make sure I'm definitely telling you the right direction. So we go through the 0. We're going to go through the 9. You would have to press quite hard where your seams are just to get through it. I managed it. Yes.
Yeah, because I guess where you've got the
Where you've got your
you've
seams,
got
you
like
see I
4
haven't
layers of fabric
quite
going on.
got through that one, but we'll just tidy it up. There we go. And then just swivel it round so that you do the same on the other side. So now your diagonal is facing in the opposite direction. Okay. So through the 0 and through the 9. And then, this is the fun bit, you then have to cut through the middle on the 4.5 inch.
So you cut them in half.
So you cut them in half.
So this is where you can use just a normal rotary cutter because it's
Absolutely.
4.5 inches. So you could just use you trim the edges to the 9-inch square and then.
Yes. And actually, I always like a quilt where you make a block and you trim it down because it makes them so much more accurate, doesn't it?
Yeah, you have to really concentrate otherwise, don't you? When when it's like this has got to be exact. But I like trim. I know when I make half square triangles, I always cut the squares bigger than anyone normally says because I like to have a lot to trim down. Just you don't have to be quite as accurate when you're sewing then.
That's right. So there are your block A's. So you've got a small triangle at the top left and you stripe and then your bigger bit. And then your block B's, you're going to cut it just the same, but we're going to start with the diagonal in the opposite direction. So again, we're going to square it up. And I did find I kept having to just double check on my instructions that I had got things going the right way.
Right.
So that you've got the right number of
so
A's and the right,
left, bottom,
the right
top
number
left,
of
bottom,
B's.
right.
Yes. Okay. I'm not brilliant at left and rights either.
You just have to look at it and go, that's the right way. Is it the opposite way to last time? Swivel it round. Just get it nice and neat. That's it. And then through our 4.5 in the middle. So this little set, have got your triangle in the other direction. Perfect.
So you can see you've got some A's and you've got some B's.
Yes, so it's kind of important.
That is important to keep to keep your thing going in the right way. And then on the next page of your instructions, you have a lovely little diagram to help you lay it all out because each row starts with a different one. So your first row, it starts with an A, goes A, B, A, B. Your second row starts with a B.
Right.
So that they alternate every time.
So they alternate all the way round.
Yes. Now I'm on row 6, so I am going to start with a B. So really the only tricky bit is just making sure that you're keeping track of which one's going
Yeah,
where.
so you could cut them all and then label the top of each pile, A pile and B pile, so you don't get confused.
That would be a very sensible thing to do. Yes, it would.
You only have to label one pile.
Absolutely. Yeah, just one big stack of them.
So how many rows are in the finished quilt?
So in the lap quilt, there are 7 rows.
Okay, so up there behind you, you've got 5.
Yes.
Okay, so you'll have... That is a big for a lap quilt, isn't it?
It is a lovely big quilt.
Standard lap quilt size?
Well, I don't know if there are standards for.
Well, I don't know. I just
a lot
sort
of
think
smallish quilts that don't quite come into a single are called lap quilts, aren't they?
Do you think that's lying on the sofa watching the telly quilt?
Definitely.
Hoping nobody notices you but think you're just a quilt.
I love lying on the sofa under a quilt.
Oh, so do I. It's just the best thing. Or a blanket. I'm crocheting a blanket at the moment, a temperature blanket. And it's got so big now. I think it's almost bed size.
Fantastic.
But it's this time of year, it's so lovely to make and I can't wait to finish it. I feel like the other day I was cold and I was going to lie underneath it. I thought, no, I haven't finished it, so I'm not going to lie underneath it. But it's so warm, I really wanted to. But it would be a good picnic blanket though, wouldn't it? For the summer. Put a waterproof backing on it.
Yes, it would.
One day we'll be having picnics Can't imagine it at the moment, can you?
No, you never can at this point in the year, can you?
But it's nice. Get ahead. You look quite cool when you go to the park and you get your...
Oh, you look very
it's
posh.
Just one I made earlier over the Christmas holidays.
But this one is really could make it nice and quickly over the holidays. You know, especially if you do it all your ironing, all your cutting.
Yeah, so if you do it like a proper production line.
Yes, definitely. You would easily.
I guess, and this is where you, if you want to, if you could you could lay them all out now, couldn't you?
You could,
If
and
you
make
wanted
sure
to
that you haven't got
really
any
yeah,
bits next to
make
each
sure
other
that you're
you
happy
don't.
with it.
Yes. And that is quite a nice thing to do.
And then, I mean, you could
it's
lay it
quite
all out.
fun, I always think.
Well, you could
isn't
lay it all out on the bed. If you took your duvet off or on the sheet, you could lay them all out and then maybe take, and then what I would do is I'd take a photo of it.
Always
and then
take a photo.
Layer it all up row by row and label the rows.
Yes.
Just because I would be worried that I'd get to the end and think, oh, I'm going to have to unpick some now.
Well, when I teach making quilts, so that's what we do. We always take a photo and do that and stack it up and label them. And then when I do them on my own at home, I think, oh, it'll be fine. I remember that.
I mean, luckily with this, there are so many prints, but it would just be annoying, wouldn't it, if it just happened to be, oh. Because, yeah, I mean, the one it looks beautiful. It looks very random. Does it give you any assistance with colour choice or laying together? Or is it very much...
I think it's very much about the patterns.
Just do what you want to do.
And you can choose your colours, which actually, for me, that is the really fun part of patchwork, choosing your fabrics and putting them together and choosing a nice colour palette.
Yeah, I mean, in here it just says, make sure that your layer cake has the desired variety of fabrics or contrast between lights and darks. If you want to work from yardage, cut your own 10-inch squares. There we go.
Yeah.
So you don't have to use layer cakes. I mean, obviously the joy of layer cakes is already done, but if you haven't got those, just cut fabric. So if you want to make this go further, just cut your fabric into 10-inch squares. So you'd get 4 squares from a width of fabric. And so from a metre, you'd get 16 squares.
Which is quite a lot of squares.
Yes. Well, if you wanted to add more to make the bigger quilt.
So we can see we're alternating A, B all the way along, and you get this lovely
Yeah, you can see it.
zigzag going on. And then when you come to, the only bit where you have to match seams is when you come to join your rows on these little points
okay,
here.
yes, so you really need to match.
Those ones you do.
Yeah.
But that's quite nice, straightforward matching. That
Yeah,
is.
although to be honest, because you've got so many angles and colours going on there, if you don't match those perfectly,
not the end of the world.
by the time you've quilted that, who's going to know?
I think sometimes people can get a little bit just like very hung up about it being perfect, and you see it when you've sewn it because you've sewn it, but most of the people don't.
But nobody else does, unless you're entering a quilt competition.
Yes. Right, so I'm going to put a few more together so I can finish off the row. But as you can see, they whiz up ever so nice and quickly,
really
don't
quick.
they?
I've almost done a row.
I've almost done a row.
You need 7. It's nice in the back of the book, they've put some photos of the finished quilts, but in different colourways.
It's quite, yeah, there's a lot of inspiration in the book. The photos all the way through are very nice in different colours. Oh, you see, there's that city one. I can see it on your
Yes.
in like a contrast, like a nighttime.
I like Polygon City. Although I think Matrix is my favourite. Because I like the way it's got sort of triangles of fabrics that look like they've been cut out.
Which one's the Matrix one?
The one that's like hashtag.
Ah, yes.
That's like windows. It looks like hashtags, but straight on ones. But it's all in the colour though, isn't it? I mean, like this Prisms fab one that's in these blues
that's
and
a nice
greens
one.
is beautiful,
Oh, I
isn't
like
it?
that one, yes.
So it's sort of offset half square triangles of different sizes, but in those colours, they're just beautiful. But we have got, I'll show you a little bit, we have got some more layer cakes as well. So if you want other inspiration, Because I think if you had to choose 40 10-inch squares to go together, you'd have to spend hours, wouldn't you? Hours. Imagine being in a shop going, oh my Lord, hours and hours.
But if you had got bits left in your stash and you wanted to use them up, you could it would make a real scrappy quilt,
yes,
wouldn't
it would, wouldn't it? Yeah.
You know, if you like that sort of a look.
Well, also, sometimes it's nice to do that because it reminds you of other projects. So because, you know, I always keep all the leftovers, but if you made a scrappy quilt from all the projects you'd ever made, it reminds you, oh yeah, that was
really
the
nice
bag I
idea.
made for Auntie Jean.
Yeah.
That was the quilt I made for whoever.
But I am eyeing up your other layer cakes over there because there's some really nice ones.
Well, it's just nice because the fabrics are chosen for you. And there is something lovely. I love design rolls and I love layer cakes. I always think, oh, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. But I was saying in the earlier show where we had some design rolls, there were lots and lots of books using these, and here's just one of them.
They're very versatile.
So you don't have to line these up absolutely perfectly when you sew them together because you're trimming.
Well,
it.
you are trimming them. So again, if it isn't perfect, it's not the
You
end
just line
of
up
the
that
world.
centre.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't even really need to use a pin. I don't think. You can just go for it.
Because you're trimming it.
Yeah, and I think because they're quite big triangles and you're not handling them too much, they don't really stretch.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, you know, triangles can be awful.
Well, I
can't
think the problem is when you cut them and subcut them and press them and then redo them together, then it starts. But there's not too much movement going on with these. I guess you have to be a bit careful because it's on the bias.
But because of the way that you cut them, because you cut each block into two, you find that no two are the same.
Yeah.
Which is really clever as well,
Yeah,
isn't
I know.
it?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so you've got 3 fabrics in each one, and then you cut them up, so then they're different again. So the chance of you getting to the end and having the same fabrics is slim, but I think I'd still not risk it. I'd still once I'd cut all my rectangles out, I think I would lay them all out just to be sure, or half of them at least.
Okay, we'll press and trim those ones and then we can finish off the row. Where's my little presser gone?
So again, you press the seams over to one side.
Yes.
It does mention about pressing. I'm just going to see whether
She does tell you which way to press in the book, because there's some, I think it was in this one I was reading, and sometimes occasionally pressing them open, which I don't often do, just because it's fiddly. But that's that's me.
I think, yes, I think there are often, you often press to a particular side so that when you join them together the seams nest, although that doesn't really apply
So
here.
with these, when you've got the rows together, she does tell you to press one way or the other.
Oh, okay.
So ideally you would get all your rows put together like this, and then press all your rows so that they're going in opposite directions, so then they will nest together.
Because it does make it a lot easier when you sort of push them together.
That's
you can feel them butt up and then you stop.
Yes.
Which I never really understood when I first started quilting until I actually did it and thought, oh yeah, no, you can feel if
It does make it better,
they do
doesn't
sort of
it?
stop
Yes.
together, don't they?
Your ironing is important.
I think
but it's a bit like putting these rows together is only like putting normal rows of squares together.
Yes, yeah. because you're not matching up any of the diagonal seams, luckily.
Yeah, I was quite relieved when I discovered that.
it just takes time, doesn't it? If you've got to match those as well, it's just like, because you know that it will make quite a difference. When you get some quilts where all the diagonals then match up, it is just a bit harder, but you've only got to, and I guess because as long as you do your pressing carefully, it's easier to match them up then.
Yes, and if you've done your 1/4 inches correctly. So let's just trim this one. So okay, so first one at 0 to 9, and then.
So £32 for this book. Each pattern's only £3.20. That's a bargain, isn't it?
You're just like a mathematical whiz this morning.
Yeah, I can divide by 10 quite easily then. If we were dividing by 3 or 4, maybe not. But £3.20 per
It's
pattern.
very good. It's very good. I think it's a really nice book.
Well, especially when you're a quilt maker, and you get it, the time that's involved in creating one of these patterns, making it work, getting someone to test it, and the only way to test it is to actually make it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work involved in creating every single one of these, and all the maths, working out all the different fabric requirements, and making sure it's right, and then they're telling you exactly how much fabric of each one you need, and how many strips you've got to cut. Oh.
See, I forgot that I was cutting it in half there, so. Try and remember to do it before you take your ruler away.
You'll only forget once.
So you see, even though the block's the same, your two things that come out are different.
Yeah, it can be, yeah.
It's cool. Let's do a couple of the bees. Just where those little seams are, it's occasionally. I'll tell you what, the thing with the Stripology reader, and it is nice, it's one of those, you don't have to have it, but it's a nice to have. You do have to, you do need a very, very sharp rotary cutter. Yeah.
So because you've got to position it between the grooves.
And this has cut this current blade has cut quite a lot. It's probably ready.
I know, it's really frustrating, isn't it? When you know that you need to replace a blade, but you just don't. And then you get to the point where you think, oh, I've had to get my scissors out and cut through too many threads because it's not sharp enough. And then when you finally put a new blade in, it's like, oh, it's a dream. It's a bit like sharpening your carving knife.
Have you got a rotary cutter sharpener?
I have, but I've never used it.
Have you not? Because I keep thinking I really ought to get one.
And I have got one.
I've forgotten to do that in half.
And I don't know why I've never used it. I think I got that and some new blades at the same time. So maybe when I've got through my blades, I should have a go with it.
Yeah.
Because I do have this, I don't know why, I constantly must go through pins because I've always seemed to have a nick in my blade. And it can only be cutting through pins and not having a nice, clear rotary cutting mat. So I'm always in too much of a rush. And then I go, oh, I've gone through a pin. So you're just joining them all together into one long length?
Yes. I believe I've got 11 across there.
You have. You have. Yeah, So I suppose you cut all of them out, then you join them all into rows, and then you just join the rows together?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lovely,
Easy.
simple one.
And there is stuff at the beginning of the book. It does tell you about quilting and binding, and also how to cut your binding strips and how to join them together, and how to do that nice mitered corner binding. That's lovely.
Just makes your quilt just look really professional, doesn't it?
I do. Well, I like the mitered binding around the edge because it is such an easy way to get a nice little right angle. It's really simple. I remember the first time I did it thinking, God, that's clever. How does that work? And you just get that lovely edge round it. But it does tell you all about that, so it is all covered. Yeah, see, look, you haven't got any of the same colour touch in there, and you haven't planned that at all.
And I'd only got saved a few squares left, but yeah, there's none actually.
No. And you haven't.
But the thing is, there's such a variety of designs. I mean, yes, the spots are there and there, but I don't think it matters.
That doesn't really matter, does it? No.
Your eye doesn't particularly get drawn to it,
No,
I don't
it doesn't.
think.
No. Well, I can, because looking at the one behind you, you can see how it doesn't really matter. So it's a nice, easy one, isn't it?
It's a lovely, easy quilt. I think it's one of those that looks much more difficult
Yeah,
than it really
I always
is.
think that's good. If you make a quilt that makes you look really clever. Always make quilts that make you look really clever.
Yes, they're the sort I like best.
Yes, took me ages.
We'll give it a press because it always looks better when you've pressed it, doesn't it?
I know, I honestly think that pressing is equally important as the cutting and the sewing. And
It is actually.
sometimes I spend hours pressing, just getting all the seams over to one side or open, and then you've got to turn it over to the other side to make sure it's pressed. But
That's
when you've
right.
got a really good steam press, it looks so crisp, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and it can make all the difference of a millimetre here and there.
Yeah,
if
it
you've
does,
pressed
yeah.
it really nice and flat and open, and your seams are just
Well, you know, when you
lovely,
put
it'll make
borders
all the
on, you really have to stretch it sometimes to fit, but it's because of the seams. If you haven't pressed them really to one side or open, then you lose a little bit in every single one.
Absolutely. So it is well, I think for all sewing, ironing's really important, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just, do you know what? It always makes your sewing look twice as good, I think.
Well, it sets the seam as well. I always press a seam once I've sewn it before I then press it to one side as well. It sort of sets all the stitches.
But you definitely need to do it on both sides so that you've got your seam lying one way, and then you can make sure it is really nice.
Well,
and
sometimes it
open.
doesn't, although you've thought you've pressed it to one side on the other side, when you then turn it over, it's
fiddled
not
its way
quite.
back, hasn't it? Yes. And you see, if
It
I'm
is
not careful, I'm flicking those up if I'm not careful.
But it is worth spending the time on that, and I think, you know, that's one thing I would say. If you want to get a professional finish, just spend a bit more time on your pressing.
I would totally agree. When I get children come and they start learning, when they're big enough, I let them. When they're little, I do their ironing for them. But when they get into my bigger class, they have to start to do their own ironing.
Okay, so what age is your bigger one?
Sort of from about 10 plus.
Okay.
Yeah. So that they, see the importance of it.
Absolutely.
When they're that age, they quite like learning it as well.
Yeah, they don't mind. They don't realise how
No.
awful it is.
Although I don't mind this kind of ironing.
That's different.
Doing
That's
your husband's
different.
shirts is a whole different
Yeah,
matter.
That's different to shirts, isn't it?
This is fun ironing.
This is nice. There's a point to that.
Although I have to say, I don't actually do my husband's shirts. He does his own. I don't do them well enough.
Oh, really? How nice.
There's a lot of things I don't do very well.
Yeah, that's
Rebecca.
really good. Yeah, I'm rubbish at putting the bins out. Rubbish. Just can't get the right ones out on the right day. There's loads of things like that going on.
How are you on the dishwasher? I can't pack the dishwasher properly.
apparently.
No, well, I can't, and that really annoys me because he always repacks it. And I go, why are you repacking the dishwasher? Apparently, there is only one way to pack the dishwasher.
Apparently. We all need, like, diagrams, don't we?
I don't understand that, because if I do it myself, it washes absolutely fine, but he always repacks the dishwasher. It drives me insane.
I think it's a universal
Do you think
problem.
so? Is it a man thing? Why is it men think that they can pack dishwashers better than... It just drives me insane. I sometimes go, have you been repacking the dishwasher? Because I was just putting a plate in. You weren't. There was a lot of noise coming out of the kitchen.
So, there's a lovely row.
A whole
row. A whole finished row.
Beautiful. I love that. Looks really lovely. And so you just add that.
Add that onto the bottom.
Okay.
Absolutely. Obviously, I'm not going to take that down to do it now. Maybe when we're done at the end, I'll take
well, you've
it
done
home
another one, and then
finished.
there's only one more to do, and then that's done.
Absolutely.
That's lovely. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
So we're going to just run through the bundles again. So the code on the screen at the moment is for the book that we went through earlier, the Stripology Squared book. There are 10 quilts in here, and they're all made from 10-inch squares. So this is perfect if you buy a layer cake or a charm pack at a 10-inch square. But remember, you can also make them from meterage of fabric. So out of a metre of fabric, you'd get 16 squares. So you don't have to buy that, but obviously it makes it easier because they're already done. So should we have a quick look through, because we went through it earlier, but in case you missed it, everything you need to know at the beginning is how you work with the Stripology rulers, how you cut out. It talks to you at the beginning all about the quilting and the binding, the pressing and choosing fabric. Then you move on to the quilt designs, and the great thing about this, not only are there 10 of them, but each of the designs gives you all the cutting requirements and fabric buying requirements for crib, lap, twin full, queen, king. So you've got 10 quilts in 4 different sizes, so you've got 40 quilts here, and they've done all the maths for you, so it tells you what you need to cut your fabric into. There's lots of really, really good full colour diagrams that are very easy to understand. Katharine explained that, you know, she's found it very easy to go through. It's quite a process, and it's all been worked out for you. So it's very much a production line. You cut everything, you sew everything, you press everything, you join it all back together again. But there were some beautiful quilts in here. And at the back of the book, they show some of the quilts done in different colourways, which is lovely because quilts look completely different when you change the colour. I love the Velocity quilt. It looks like sort of tumbling blocks, and then so this one is in lovely pinks and greens, and then if you get close here, you can see that's the same quilt, the one with the dog on, in monochrome, and again it looks completely different in monochrome than it does in the pinks. And I love the matrix one as well. That's really nice because that looks really involved and really complicated, but it isn't. It's all very simple. So remember, you've got 10 in here, so it works out. Nice dog. That's on the quilt that Katharine was just making. It works out as £3.20 per quilt design. You don't have to use the Stripology ruler. Obviously, it's a lot quicker if you do, but because it tells you exactly the width and the length of all of the pieces you're cutting, you can just use a normal one. So we've made the quilt today using this Moda layer cake back porch by me and my sister designs. Features all these beautiful, really fresh spring summer blues and reds. It's just blue and red, but different shades of. You've got large prints like this, the floral on top, and this floral here, which is a really large print. Then you've got much smaller, low volume prints mixed with some checks and stripes, and there are spots and ladybirds. I love that one because you've got big spots and little spots all mixed together. A few florals, but you can see from the quilt that Katharine made, you know, just how stunning this collection together. It's very bright whites, these lovely strawberry reds, and very, very bright blues. So it's a lovely bit of colour on a muggy December day. I love this one with the ladybirds. But it's ideal. I mean, and this quilt, this will make you a lap quilt, which is a massive lap quilt. This is a picnic blanket size quilt or a lie on the sofa blanket quilt size. But you can make the cot quilt from this, a whole layer cake, and a cushions besides as well. So if you want to if you'd like to make the quilt, but you'd like to do it in a different colour, we've got some other layer cakes for you here. This, I'm going to do this Free Spirit one. These bright, fantastic orange. So this is K Facet collection, the collectors. So this cave collection, this is all in beautiful yellows, oranges and bright greens. So can you imagine that quilt all in these colours, all pinks and greens? Oh, that one's sold out. That's gone. That's gone. We've got exactly the same pack. This is in the peacock blues. I really like, everyone just wants them. I love this one, and we did this one the other week. This one's called Apricot and Ash, and this is a lovely one. It's very, very clean, clear colours, very spring. It features these sort of apricot peachy colours, tones and greens, but at the back of it, the last few fabrics at the back are all this lovely sort of charcoal brownie colour fabric, all in the same colour. So it's a really lovely fabric collection, but very sort of peachy apricot colours and this lovely lime green tone. So if you wanted to make that quilt, or any of the ones in the book, but wants something very summery, that's a lovely pack. And finally, we've got the Riley Blake collection. Actually, I can take that one off because that comes out quite easily. I love these. We did these the other week, and this would be beautiful because this is very, very pretty. This features shades of this lovely Dijon mustard with the sort of the charcoal background, and then the other ones, you've got a cream whitey background, but it's all like hand drawn. But the blue is beautiful. So all of these colours, you know, you've got that very bright pink and the soft blue, but the blue in the background of here is featured in the leaves on here. So you can see how they all go together. So any of those quilts from that book would look amazing in these fabrics. And Minky Kim, who designed these for Riley Blake, her sort of signature design are these very intricate, small designs. But she also, one of the prints in it of hand drawn. I'm trying to find the one that's got pictures on it. This one here. I love this print. That's a lovely print, isn't it? It's got word vintage love, antique friend, and it's got a spool of string and dried roses. But that's a lovely selection. So if you wanted to make any of the quilts in there from this is very, very pretty and summery. I'm glad we're doing pretty and summery ones today. Anyway. Whoa, I've only got 20 seconds left. So I will be back with you. Thanks to Catherine. She'll be back with us at 11. I will be back with you in just a few minutes where we're going to be doing my Amber Makes Hour, going to the craft storage case, which is the matching set for the needle case collection. And we've got those back in stock. So I will see you in just a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, my name is Yvonne McAtamney. My passion is patchwork and quilting. And it's also my privilege to own Village Fabrics patchwork and quilting shop in Wallingford. My sewing life began before I went to school, certainly, and probably before I could read. My mum was always a sewer, and with two big sisters, every weekend there would be a new dress made, and I was allowed to do certain pieces, and as I got older, I started to make some dresses. My top tip is you don't have to be able to draw to design. The place that I always start is with a children's colouring in book. They have good bold outlines, and then you can trace that and adapt to your heart's content. Anybody can do it. My claim to fame is that last year, when things were good, we had Jenny Doan from Missouri Star Quilt Company come and do a meet and greet at my shop in Wallingford. We had a really enjoyable day and good fun was had by all. So I hope I'll be popping into your living rooms on a regular basis as we go forward with Sewing Street here. We are intending to bring you some absolute beginner kits as well as some of our more intricate designs. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Debbie Shaw, and as a professional sewer, I really know how important it is to use a high quality thread. Well, you think about it. You spend a lot of money on your sewing machine, you'll spend a lot of money on fabric, and you'll spend a lot of time sewing. So why let your thread let you down? I know a lot of our designers and customers prefer to use Aurifil thread. Now this is a family business. It was established in 1983 and they're based just outside Milan in Italy. They produce superior quality threads for domestic and professional sewers alike, and they've achieved worldwide success with quilters, sewers, embroiderers and textile artists who all appreciate the versatility and the strength of these threads. It's all made from Egyptian cotton, which is grown just at the side of the River Nile, and Aurifil only use the long staple threads, which gives their thread that strength. Each one of these threads goes through 15 steps before it even gets onto a spool and then comes to you to use in your sewing projects. Now at Sewing Street, we've collaborated with Aurifil and we've brought you 2 collections of threads. So we have the Quilters collection, and these are exclusive to Sewing Street. We've done a lot of research with quilters, and these are the colours that you prefer to use. So we've put a whole collection together for you. The second collection is the Essential collection. So this is for the homemakers, for the bag makers, for the craft sewers, for the dressmakers. And again, these have been proven to be the most popular colours that you're going to use. So if you want your projects to last longer and your seams to be stronger, invest in some quality thread.
And welcome back to Sewing Street. Sewing Street is now Amber Makes. So if you didn't watch last week or when I was on a few months ago, Amber Makes is a little kit business that I've set up with my friend Amy. Amy and I used to work together, and I can sew and Amy can draw. She can sew and I really can't draw. But together we've decided that, because we both really enjoy sewing and drawing together, so we decided that we would create some kits for you. And the great thing about it is we actually make kits of things that we want to have. And hopefully you do as well. So last week I was on and I was showing you the needle cases, and unfortunately we sold out. But we've got them back. We've had the kits remade and redone. So if you weren't watching last week, I'm just going to show you quickly what the needle case is. So this is what you get to make. On your panel, there are 2 different colourways, and this is your panel. There's 2, they make exactly the same thing, you just have to choose the colour. So this one is Busy Bee, and in the kit you get the whole panel with every single piece that you need to make the needle cases. All the seam allowances included, they're all labelled, you don't have to do any thinking or measuring or cutting, and you also get the instructions, a full set of instructions, full colour, with all the pictures, the walkthroughs, everything you need to do that will explain how to make the 2 needle cases. So you can either buy the Busy Bee, or, because I like bees, and Amy likes bees, she's really good at drawing bees, which is great. So the way that we work is that I work out how to do the design, and then I make it up from some calico or some odd fabric, and I send Amy all these odd design pictures and say, I want it a bit like this, but I need it a 10 centimetre square, and then she fills it with all these brilliant prints, because Amy's background is she's a surface pattern designer and a fantastic illustrator as well. So this is the vintage sewing collection. So I gave all the measurements and I said, I just want sort of vintage sewing, and that was it. And then she comes up with these amazing things. I mean, it's beautiful, isn't it? So on this needle case, you've got the old-fashioned sewing machines, you've got spools of thread, buttons, labels, and everything is labelled on there. So that's the panel that you get with vintage sewing. And again, you get the full colour instructions that go with it. But I'm just going to show you what they actually make, because that's kind of more important, isn't it? This is what you actually get to make. So this is the bee one. So in the panel, the reason I designed these is I really like needles, and because clearly I'm a very keen sewer. I know it's really important to use the right needle for the right job, which I didn't used to do. When I first started sewing, I just used any old needle. And then my background is working for sewing magazines, and I was really lucky one day many years ago to go to a machine factory. And then I realised how important it was to use the right needles, and then they used to get mixed up because I buy them all in the packets, and then they took them out of the packet, and then I couldn't remember which one they were. So if we open this up, inside every page has got a different needle, and the name of the needle is printed on the front. Okay, on the front cover, all this design is printed, but if you want, you can do what I've done, is that there are also the label for this is a separate piece, and you can applique that on if you want to, but you don't have to. I put a piece of felt behind me, so let me show you on the panel, so this actually will make sense. So there's the front cover of the needle case there, but there's also the label here. So you don't have to applique that on, but if you want to, you can cut this out, or you can cut the bee out and you can sew it on. So this is a way of you to personalise it, but to make it really exclusive to you. So with the bee on here, I satin stitched the body and I stitched the legs, but you don't have to do that. You could sew the bee onto the back. You could also embroider all the names of the needles if you want to, but you don't have to because they're printed. So we've got beading, chenille, darners, embroidery. And what I love about this is Amy has created it with lines on the pages, so it's easy to get the needles nice and straight. You don't have to put them straight, but they just look nicer. Leather, milliners, quilting, sharps, tapestry and spares, because we all have those needles and we're not quite sure what they are. Although on mine, the one I have at home, I keep my safety pins in there that I use for threading things through. And then the inside cover is printed with all these lovely bees. Then you also get on the panel the sewing machine needle case. So again, just as it's very important that your sewing machine needles, you use the right one for the right job, not just the universal. It's really hard. You get all mixed up, and I'm never absolutely sure which is which unless they're in the packets. So that's why I made this. I designed it in a way that, because when I first made it, all the needles fell out. So it has this flap that goes over. And then when you open it up, all the names of the needles are printed. These are the most popular and common types of needles that you will use. But on top of that, so you've got ballpoint embroidery, jeans, leather, quilting sharps, stretch, top stitch, universal. But I put it in extra pockets called specials and spares, because you might have a twin needle or a trip needle or a metallics, that can go in specials. If you've got more than one packet of the same needle, like you might have 2 packets of universal you can put in there. But this is the most important pocket that I designed for me, and I hope you will find it useful as well, is the in the machine pocket, because I can never remember which needle I've got in my machine. So what you do is, say I've got the quilting needle in my machine, I put the quilting needle packet in the pocket, and I know that they're in the machine. And then when I swap them back, I just put it there, and then I put the next one. And it's just one of those really useful things. I find it quite often if I put a jeans needle in, and I can't remember which one I had last. So if you just always remember to take it out. You can also, with the flap, you could hang it up. So you could hang it up on your wall, like that, and you could hang it up. And then it folds over to stop it falling out, because I said when I first did the design, because Amy and I, between us, we spend quite a lot of time on these. I make the prototype, she designs it, we then go through it, work out what works, what doesn't, is it big enough, can you read it, do we need the colour changed, then we make it, and then I realise that things like the needles fall out and it doesn't work. So the vintage sewing collections, it's exactly the same. There's the hand sewing needles. It features all these beautiful old-fashioned, like there's the old Singer machine and tape measure and spools. Again, you can personalise it. I put some buttons on mine. I did a little bit of embroidery. I worked embroidery around the edge. The sewing machine needle case, with this one, I just embroidered that, you know, the lovely gold scroll that you get on these old machines and the thread. And then if we open this one up, it does exactly the same thing, but you've got this lovely print. Yes, like I've got the quilting needles in the machine, so I'll put them back in there. Yeah, so you know straight away. And then they've got little lines between them. Those are the spines to make it fold, because I realised when I made the first one that they didn't fold up properly. But I love this print. It's a real sort of gentle lilac colour with all of these machines and needles and safety pins, threads. I love the little tape measures all over the back, and then there's a spotty front, and then it does up, and then all you have to do is provide yourself is just a little snap fastener, and then I sewed a button to it as well. So that is the needle set. Now we've also got, if you want to buy, we did have the machine needles last week, but we haven't been able to, they sold out and we haven't been able to get them back in stock. We will do, but we haven't been able to do it for date because it was only last week. However, if you want to buy the hand needles, this is all of them. And these are actually the ones I put in mine, because I asked them at Sewing Street to buy these specially, because these are the ones I wanted. So bossy. So I chose these particularly because they fit. There's 9 of them. Because remember, there were 10 pages, and one's called Ooh, that way. One's called spares. So these are all the needles, and they are exactly the needles that I put in here. Even the leather ones. The leather ones are my favourite. Not that I use them very often, but they've got little chisel points, so they're absolutely perfect. Not just for leather, but for PU, oilcloth, any non-woven fabric, because the little chisel points just pierce them through. And you've got long darners needles. These are brilliant for, well, for darning, but they're also really good for things like bullion knots or large knots for embroidery. They're lovely. Tapestry needles, obviously for your cross stitch or for sewing together knitting. You've got chenille needles, which are for embroidering with thicker threads. Beading, very super long, very thin needles. I love the milliner's needles, originally used for millinery because they're very long and very sharp with quite elongated eyes, but they're very good for embroidery as well. Betweens needles for quilting. If you're hand quilting, you need a very short, strong needle. So they've got quite a thick shaft but a small eye, and you can get lots, because they're short, you can get lots and lots of stitches on your needle, so you can do hand quilting. Sharps, these are your bog standard needle. These do all your hemming, all the little things. I use them a lot for things like running stitch as well, if I'm doing running stitch with embroidery. So these are all of the needles here, all very good for hand sewing tasks, but also for embroidery as well. But you will find if you use the right needle for the job, it makes a massive difference. So if you want to fill your hand sewing needle case, these are all the needles that you need. All the needles that you need. And they're a really nice brand. They're Millwood needles. So they're a good brand, because I didn't want to bring you anything that was low quality. If you're going to go to all the time to make yourself a needle case, then put some decent quality needles in there as well. But you can now store them all in there. And I really enjoyed making them. Well, probably because I designed them because I need them, and now I've got my own cases. But the instructions, I said earlier, is that my background is working for a magazine and writing technical instructions for magazines. So over the years I've had a lot of feedback about what you can and can't understand, and what you can do and what you can't do. So the instructions explain everything that you need to know. So there's a picture on the front. Let me just open them up. And then I've done photographs of going all the way through it of exactly how to make it, and with pictures. It tells you all the other things, the ingredients that you need for it, and then the method, because it is a bit like cooking. It's a bit like a recipe, isn't it, really? When you make something, what do you need and how do you do it? So that's what you get in the kit, is the panel and the instructions. Right. So with that in mind, because we really enjoyed doing those and the prints are so beautiful, I said to Amy, it's a shame to waste those prints on just the needle cases. I really wanted to create some storage, because storage is so important when you're sewing. So we used the same prints and we created storage. So I'm going to show you, this is the vintage sewing. This is the craft storage case. So round the outside, you've got 6 pockets. They're all pleated, so you can get a lot in them. So I put clips on this one. You can get your scissors, rotary cutters, all your storage can go in here. Now, to make this stand up, it's got foam interfacing in it. And it's a lovely product. If you haven't used foam interfacing before, you sew through it beautifully. You don't even need a jeans needle. You can use your normal universal needle, but it gives a real structure. Now, I try not to put too much stuff in the kits, because I know a lot of you have a lot of materials at home already. So I don't put too much in, because otherwise you're buying stuff you've already got. But with the foam interfacing, it's not the easiest thing necessarily for you to find. So that comes in the kit. So in the kit, you get the fabric panel, I'll show you it in a minute, the instructions, but you also get the foam interfacing, which gives it the rigidity. The handle, I've put some webbing in to make it just a bit stronger, but you don't need to do that. So we haven't put that in the kit. So you get the craft storage case, but also, and that features exactly the same prints that's in the needle case, in the needle cases, you get a pin cushion, which look at the little, it's got around the edge of the pin cushion of all the little sewing machines. Aren't they lovely? And then you've got all the same prints, but oh, let me move that over. But that's in like a bluey colour, so that matches that. You also get, I've put them in hidden them in the pockets. Oh yeah. You get the scissor case, which is really simple. But you know, if you want to travel with your scissors at all, this pair's a little bit too big, you can pop them inside. Really simple make. So it features the same prints and it's got a little spotty inside, but that's just to put your little embroidery scissors in, just stops the ends poking into things. And finally, you get the tape measure cover. This is the sweetest thing. So this is just your normal, ordinary 150 centimetre tape measure. These little plastic ones, retractable. See? Magic. Look at that. Magic. So it's all the pieces you need are to create that. And again, that's got the little sewing machines around the edge. So the whole set matches. So if you've got the needle case already, look, it's the whole thing all goes together. So I put some fabric in mine, but you can get loads in it. Lots and lots of different things. I'll show you the next one and then we'll go through the panels so you can see them. Ooh, let me move that one to one side. I'll run out of space. This is the Busy Bee one. I'll put my knitting in this one. So because you don't have to use it for sewing, you can use it for knitting if you like. So obviously you can see, again, you've got the 6 pockets. All the prints match the prints that are in here. So if I open up the machine needle case, if you bought this last week, you can see, look, the print that's on there is the same as the pockets on here. So they are matching. And you've got the tape measure with little bees on. I've got to find all the bits. Oh, there's the pin cushion and it's got the bees all the way around the sides and it has this cover. You just put a little button in the inside and that's what holds it all together and you can put lots of pins in. I wanted quite a big pin cushion. Quite often they're a bit smaller than that, and when I'm using my sewing machine I don't want to look too much. I want to be able to just put them in the pin cushion without looking. So if you have a nice big one you don't have to look too much. And then also is the scissor case. Oh, there he is. And he matches again. So they get all that. So I've put all my knitting needles in here. I've got yarn, and it is a really good thing that you can either use it for storing things, or if you're working on a current project and you just want to pack it away at the end of the evening and pop it in something. That when we designed these, we made them so that they're pretty enough that you could put them on your table in the living room. And I also wanted them to stand up like a bucket. So when I designed them, the way I've done it is it has a rim round the edge, and I couldn't work out how to make it sit flat. But when you look at a real bucket, like a metal bucket, they have a rim round the edge. So if you see on the bottom, there's this rim, and that's what makes it stand up. And then it has the same piece, and then the handle as well. So both of the kits come with, I'm going to show you now. Hang on a minute. They come with the panel. So should we open it up so you can see? This is a big panel because you need a lot of pieces. It's bigger than the needle case panel. In fact, I can't show you it all because it's too big. And my sewing machine's in the way. Right. So on the panel, you get everything that you need. There's the craft basket base, the lining base, there's the top of the pin cushion, you've got the pin cushion gusset, the binding, here's the pieces for the pockets, the outer pocket. The pockets are all lined. So on the bee one you can choose which way round you do them. You can have the bees on the outside and the small bees on the inside, or swap them round. And the same with this. So the craft basket, the outer body and the lining body are exactly the same size. So you can choose which one you put on the outside and which one you put on the lining. You could swap them around. So with the one that I've done here has this one on the outside and the bees on the inside, but you could swap them around. That's up to you because they are the same size. All of the pieces are labelled, which makes life a lot simpler, and all the seam allowances are included. So all you have to do is cut round them, and it says in the instructions, when you cut round them, cut the little label out and pin it onto it. Then you don't forget. As you're then making it, you take the pins off as you go along. So everything is labelled, but there's also lots of little extras as well. So here's the, you can see here, there's the top of the tape measure. That's the tape measure gusset. There's the scissor case, the front and the back. You've got other little bits and pieces, like there's a bee. And that the B isn't for anything in particular. It's just if you want to cut it out, and you could sew it to one of the pockets, or you could put it into the centre of the tape measure cover if you appliqued that on first before you did anything. We've also got on our Amber Makes kits, we always put labels, because I think it's really important if you're making something as a gift for somebody, you've got a label. So this one says stitched with love on it, but you could embroider someone's name. But if you're going to do that, do it before you assemble the piece. So say you were making the storage basket for somebody, if you stitched the stitch with love to the base first, then you could put their name on it as well. And there's more bees. So Amy's great when she does these. Every little space she fills with something, because it's always really nice to have. And when I was making these, I cut the bees out and I've kept them, and they would look lovely. I could make those into a little gift tag, or just sew them onto something else. But there's always lots of other little bits and pieces. So everything you need to make the craft storage basket and the pincushion and the scissor case and the tape measure cover is all on the panel. You also get, I'll show you here, full colour instructions. Now this is quite a big booklet, this one, bigger than the needle case one, because there's a lot more going on. There's 8 pages in this. So this is all, I've written all the instructions and Amy's laid it all out so it all makes sense. This is actually my sewing room. That's my machine there, actually, which I bought specially and treated myself in the summer because I really like machine embroidery, and the old Singer machines are just the best at machine embroidery, better than these new whizzy machines. So everything you need to know, it's all in here. It's got full colour photos, all the instructions. It's even got the diagrams, which I'll explain in a minute. You need special measurements for working out the pleats and the pockets, so we've put all of that in. It's all in here. There's a whole 8 pages full of decent instructions, and I think they actually work as well. Anyway, and on the back it tells us how to contact you, so we'd love to hear from you. You've got our email address, our Instagram and our Facebook, so when you've made it, let us know how you got on, give us some feedback, what you thought about it. Then you also get the 1/2 metre of the foam interfacing, which is what you need, and there's enough here to do the basket outer and the base, because this is something that's a little bit hard to make. So I do like to try and put things in the kits that you need, that are difficult to find. And then quickly, before I start demonstrating how to do them, I'm just going to show you the other one, the vintage sewing panel, because it sort of looks different when you see it. It's really big, isn't it? So this, I can't really show you it all. So look at the fabrics on here. You can really see the prints now, how pretty they are. So again, you could swap them around. So you've got the ivory coloured background that lines the craft basket, and you've got the mauve background on the outside, but you could swap them round. Then the pockets have got these spots on. You've got a pink spot and a blue spot, but again, I've got the pink spot on the outside, and then I've got the blue spot that lines it, but you could change those round. If we move over to here, there's the base, the pincushion top, there's the gusset. You know, I showed you it was finished with all the little sewing machines along it. These are the 2 strips to bind the craft basket. You've got the handle. Remember, these are all exactly the size you need. All seam allowances are included in there. You don't have to think. It's just a lovely thing. Give it a good press when you get it home, just to take all the creases out, and then just cut everything out. Cut every single label out and pin it on, and then you know which is which. And then there's the tape measure just there with the little scissors. So the whole thing blends together, and I said that there's always extras. So there's 2 little sewing machines there, which I've kept. I kept mine. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I've kept them, and I know there'll be something really nice. But if you want to decorate them or embroider or do anything you want to, do it before you cut the panel out. It's just easier to embroider things. So if you wanted to embellish part of it, if you wanted, part of maybe some of the pockets on the craft basket, you could take one of these sewing machines and sew them onto the centre of 2 of the pockets. Once you've worked out where the positioning goes for the line sewing the pockets on, you could sew those, but try and do that before you cut it out, because it's certainly easier to embroider if you put something in a hoop. So that's the vintage sewing. Okay, and then remember, in that kit as well, obviously you get the full instructions and the 1/2 metre of foam interfacing, which you need to strengthen it. So where do we start? Right, the first, I'm going to demo the vintage sewing one. Why is that? Because I think I demoed the B one last week. It was just the one that I happened to cut out. So what you do to start with is you take the outer basket, whichever one you choose, and you put it on top of the foam interfacing and sew it together all the way around. Now you can tack it by hand if you want. I've drawn some lines on you, I'll explain this in a minute. You can tack it by hand, or I usually do it on the machine. If you lengthen the stitch to about 5, you can just run through it on the machine. Don't cut it to the same size, just pin it to the foam interfacing first and then sew round and then cut it out. And then you do exactly the same with the base. Once it's all sewn together, make sure the seam allowance for the whole thing is 1 centimetre. So make sure you sew it within the seam allowance, but because then you can do it by machine. It's just quick, and then it just holds it all into place. So you just do both of those, and that's your foam interfacing done. You then sew the lining onto the base. You don't sew the lining onto the outer yet because we've got to do pockets first, but you sew the line. So then you base, so you can see on this one, turn around the right way, that I've kept the label on. Just so that not that it matters which way round, but it's amazing how you think you're going to remember which one is which until you come to cut them all out and you've got this pile of pieces. So just keep the labels on them, on that one as well. I mean, you know, some of them you think, oh, that's a bit silly, isn't it? I think I've just got into the habit of always putting the labels on because I do forget. And once you've cut the panel out, then you can't remember which way around. But, you know, you could, either of these would work. You could even have a different colour base to the lining. It's up to you. So those are all ready to go now. The next thing we're going to do is make the pockets. Let's take this to one side. So I wanted the pockets to be pleated, just so that you can get more into them, because with the pleats there's a lot you can get in. The pockets are lined because A, it makes them thicker and stronger, and B, it makes them look nicer, because you're obviously going to be seeing inside them. So you can see there, can't you, how they're lined? But it just gives them a bit of strength, and it just makes it look prettier. So again, you can choose which one you put on the outside and which one you put on the lining. I put the purpley pink one on the outside and the blue one on the lining, but you know, you could change it, you could put them that way around instead, and so they would look, can you see? So if you did it that way, you could have blue pockets, or you could do it that way and have pink pockets, up to you. So you sew the pockets together along the top edge, turn them right sides out, and then you just top stitch them along the top, and that just gives it a really nice finished edge. Then what I did is I sewed them together around all the sides within the seam allowance. This sewing stitching won't be seen later, but it just helps to keep the whole thing together. Now tried to work out, there's various different ways to pleat them. You could just pleat them randomly, but I wanted the pleats to be even and the pockets to be even, so it looked right. And although I was a bit worried that it would look a bit complicated having all these different measurements, but actually I think this is the simplest way to do it. So all of this is in the instructions. You haven't got to remember any of this, I'm just showing you, but everything you need to know. So in the instructions there is a diagram for the pocket and a diagram for the outer body. Now this is the only bit of complicated measuring you've got to do. So what you do is on the pocket it says 15 centimetres 14, 12, 12, 14, 15. So all you have to do is draw a line down the pocket, and I've used a heat erasable pen here. You could use a pencil. You're going to be sewing down it, so use something that doesn't show up too much, but it doesn't matter massively because you'll be sewing down it anyway, and draw those lines across it. They'll be really useful for later. Then you take your foam interfaced outer and you draw the lines on there. Now the lines are different measurements on here because obviously the body is smaller than the pocket. So the measurements on here, as you can see, are smaller. So draw those lines down there. And the seam allowances are all included in these measurements, which is why the outside measurements are bigger than the inside ones, because I've thought that through. You don't want to have to think about, oh, have I got to add the seam allowance? No, you just measure from the edges. So once that's done, you're ready to put your pockets on. So what I did is you start at the edge, and it's up to you. You can use pins or clips for this. Clips are nice because they go through the layers, but if you haven't got clips, you know, it really doesn't matter. You can use pins. Then you match up let me move this right to the middle. You match up the lines. So there's the, can you see? I'm matching up the lines. And then just pin or clip there. And then do that all the way along. So match up the lines. A heat erasable pen is my favourite thing for this because it comes off really easily. But you could use chalk or a pencil. If you didn't want to mark it, you could just put pins and you could mark up the pins. That's up to you, it doesn't really matter. So I know that I just wanted to make this the simplest way to do it. And although I had to get you to do measurements and draw lines, actually matching up these lines is now really easy. And then you match up the final line. Because I know a lot of people don't like doing pleating and working out all the measuring and making sure it's right. So I think that this is the easiest way to do it. And then you pin or clip the outside. There we go. Right. Once we've done that, we can now go back to pleating. So if you want to make this, actually you need to pin the top. You won't be able to clip that. So just put a pin in the top of it. If you want to make it perfectly even, measure the centre and fold it at that point. But do you know what? It doesn't really matter because this is going to be folded over anyway. And the only place you're going to see this pleat is at the bottom, and that's going to be covered by binding. It doesn't really matter. So I would just say sort of centrally, pull it so it fits and then pleat it over. Sort of in the centre, but it doesn't really matter. And that's just a really easy way of doing a pleat without having to do any extra measuring. Remember, you need to put, you won't be able to clip that, put a pin in the top because you need that to stay still while you are pleating, and then put the pleat, pull it up. My hands are in the way, so I'm going to show you, look, pull it up so it matches, and then fold it over, and then pin or clip it into place, whichever. You can pin. This foam interfacing, if you've never used it before, is fantastic because it's really stiff in that it holds up. It will hold up. If you're making a bag or something and you want something to have a lot of structure, it's ideal for that. But you can sew through it really easily. I've no idea why. Probably just must be the way that it's woven, or I don't know. But it works brilliantly. You'll find that the centre two pockets are slightly narrower than the outer two pockets, and that's because I thought it'd be nice to have some pockets that were different size to other pockets. So it's quite simple. It's not, if you're thinking, oh, this looks really complicated, I've got to do pleating, it really isn't, because once you've got your lines drawn, I mean, I'm not even measuring these to see whether or not they're in the centre, because I honestly don't think it matters as long as they're vaguely in the centre. Vaguely. But I'm going through this in a bit of detail because I just think I thought it might be the one thing that people would think, oh, I don't want to do that. More clips. But you can pin it as well. I just like clips because the good thing about clips is it doesn't matter which way you put them in. Right. There we go. So now look, the whole thing is pinned and pleated all the way along. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sew it together all the way around the sides. So let's start at the top. Actually, I'll get my tray to put my clips in. Oh, actually, I need to move the machine now for now. I moved it earlier, didn't I? Right. Is that okay? I moved it, and they probably put that in just the right place so they can actually see. So sew together down the sides. Sew this within the seam allowance because you're going to sew the whole thing together into a big loop in a bit, and you don't want these seams to be shown. These seams are just to hold it in place. And then when you sew across the bottom, again, sew it within the seam allowance because the seam allowance is 1 centimetre. About 1/2 centimetre will do because this bottom edge will be bound later. So you're just sewing all the way along the bottom, moving the pins and the clips as you go, and just hold those pleats into place. Now the good thing about is if you fold the pleats over from right to left, then when you're sewing it, the pleats are going the right way. If you sort of mean, they're coming away from the foot, so they won't therefore come under. You won't have to sort of fold them out of the way because they're facing in the right direction. So it just makes that sewing a lot easier. But you can see, look, I've just got a normal normal needle in the machine, just a universal, and that sews together really easily. The other thing I would use possibly, well, you probably don't need a machine, is maybe use a Sharps. I like Sharps machine needles because they have got that extra sharp point, so they do go through things like this really well. But there are lots of sort of different products that are a bit stiffer, but this goes together really nicely. So that's the, oh, do you have to put that down? That's that done. So, and I'm going to sew the dividing lines in the pockets in place. Now what's really important is that this top seam holds down. That's really important because you're going to be putting stuff in this basket like scissors, rotary cutters, you know, might be quite heavy things. So this is the point at the seam that can easily, let me count, God, I can never get my hand up. There it is. That's the point at the seam that has the most tension put on it. So it's really important that it stays strong. Now the best way to do that, and this applies to anything where you're creating something like this, is start at the bottom. Right, so all you've got to do is sew on the line that you've drawn. You haven't got to think about pleating. You just sew on the line you've drawn right to the top. When you get to the top, stop. Don't go over the edge, just stop right on the edge. Keep the needle down, turn it round. You might, when you're doing the edge pocket, you might have to fold it up a little bit so it goes under your machine. And if you then reverse stitched at this point, if you don't reverse stitch enough, it can still come undone, and also it makes it a little bit messy. So what I do is I just go back down again. So there's no threads that can come undone. You've also got two seams. Stitch right on top of the other one. If you don't stitch right on top of it exactly, it doesn't really matter. I mean, if I look at mine over there, some of them, the lines are beside each other, but you won't notice that. Just make sure you use a matching thread. Right, now if I take that out, obviously you can see these lines because they're in erasable pen, but I'll press them out in a minute. So you can see, because I've gone from the bottom up to the top and back down again, that's really strong. So you just do that with all of the lines. So if you've ever thought, oh, I think that would be really hard to do pleated pockets, then this is a really simple way of doing it. But this is a really good way if you're doing anything where you're sewing something on, where you need the seam, particularly at the top of a pocket, to be strong, then just do two lines. If you sew slowly enough, you can make sure that one line is on top of the other. But I often find that even when you reverse stitch, unless you do it lots of times, it can still come undone, particularly when you're putting tension on it. So it's just a little bit more of a secure way of doing it, isn't it? Right, and then go back up to the top again. Turn round. Okay. So a few of you have messaged in asking about the sewing machine needle bundle. Unfortunately, it sold out last week and we haven't been able to get them back in stock quick enough. But we are trying to, so when they are back in stock we will certainly let you know, because we have put the order in, but it was only a week ago and we can't get them quickly enough, but we will do, because they are a set of needles that we will be selling regularly on Sewing Street anyway. But the if you want the hand needles, then we have still got those in stock, but we will be trying to get the machine needles back in, because last week when I'm not going to do it all now because it takes too much time, but last week you have to re-watch it. I did talk about what all the hand needles and the machine needles did and why you should use them. So if you want to watch that back, you can watch it on YouTube. It was last Monday, which was the 30th of November. Then I did explain on that show why you use all the different needles and what they do. So it was 10 o'clock last Monday the 30th, so you can watch it back if you like. Right. And this is the last one. I am doing this properly. So I can just press this now and that will remove. Where's my thing? I'm going to show you that. I love these pens. One of the very most important, one of my favourite gadgets in life are heat erasable pens, which we do sell. They're called friction pens. So you just get your iron, but we do sell friction pens. And you can use any colour you like. And look at that, that's magic, isn't it? What you'll find is when you sew on top of these, you have to give them an extra, so like that one removes really easily, but if you've sewn on top of them, you have to sort of press them with your point of your iron a bit more to erase them. But oh, brilliant! They've put the pens now. There's the blue one, friction pen. They're $3.99, and we have the green ones as well. But honestly, they are one of the very inexpensive gadgets that I would not be without. Because look at that, it's just magic. And the only way that those marks will come back is if you, if it's very cold. So if you take them on a flight and you put your storage basket on a flight and it's in the hold, they'll come back. Or if you put them in the freezer. So if you ever wanted the marks to come back, it's only at very low temperatures, like in a freezer, that they will come back. But it's funny, when you've sewn on top of it, you really have to press it because it's almost like it sews them in. But that's just a really quick way of marking your fabric without it marking permanently. And now you've got really, really strong pockets. Airways, one of my favourite things. What did I do with my scissors? Oh, there they are. So when you finish that, that's all your pockets attached. Place it right sides together. I'm going to get my clips out. Now, if you... Let me take that up. So, if you want to be super keen about this, it would be nice if the pockets matched up. So I'm just going to show you a way of doing that. They don't, I mean, honestly, if they don't, who's going to know? But if you want to make them really match up, line them up, roll them together, and then a little bit down, say like an inch down, put a needle through and then pick it up. A pin, not a needle. Been talking about needles too much. Now you see that's right through the edge of the pocket. Now push it down in exactly the same place the other side. I had my head in the way then. Look. So you can see it comes through there. So I know that's in the right place. Push the pin all the way through and then pin it horizontally. You can take that one out now and do the same up here. Put the pin through, so I've got it just on the edge of the pocket, and pin it through just on the edge of that pocket. You know that they match up then, which is important if you really, really want them to match up. You can then put a horizontal pin in and take that one out. Now, the top, because those are the most important bits that match. These will match because you've cut them to the same size, but if they were a little bit out, wouldn't matter too much. So, now, we sew this together. Right. Okay, so now I'm going to just check before I show you. Oh yes, thank goodness for that. So if I turn this right side out, it'd be funny if it hadn't matched, wouldn't it? Well, it wouldn't, because I'd look like really stupid. But now I'm going to turn that right side out. So we've now got our base, and let's just have a look to show you that worked. If you look at If you look at the join, I've got a bit of thread there, but look, it matches. Which obviously, you know, if it doesn't match completely, it doesn't really matter. It's your storage case. But if you want it to really match, do it that way. So that's the basket outer. The next thing you need to do is make the lining. The lining, luckily, is a lot simpler because there are no pockets on the lining. Unless you want to make pockets. And if you do want to make pockets, you could use the outer pockets as templates and use your own fabric and sew the pockets on in exactly the same way. And then you could have pockets on the inside as well. But you would obviously have to, they're not on the panel, so if you wanted to, just measure these and you could do them on the same way. So with the lining, you now join that right sides together, and that goes on the inside, funnily enough. But it needs to go the right way round. So you need to have it wrong sides together, so the wrong side of the lining needs to match the wrong side. And then, how much time have I got? Oh, not long. You pin it all the way round. Now what I found is because you've got the foam interfacing, it sort of pulls the outer in a bit. It doesn't shrink it, but it looks like the lining is too big. So the best way, and it will fit, but I find it easier if you put it into quarters. So take the seam end, and you'll need to do this anyway when you add the base. So we'll do it on all of, we'll do it all over. So if you put a pin down this end, because you'll need the quarters when you put the base on, okay? Right, now open it out again and match that pin to the seam at the top and the bottom. Exactly, and flatten it out and put a pin at that end. Put the pins so the tops of the pins are sticking upwards, because you'll need to take them out and it's easier to do it that way. And oh, there's more pins in the pair. Actually, I should just use the pins that are in my pincushion. And then do the same at the bottom, because if you do it at this stage, then you don't have to think about it later. Okay? So there's your quarters. Do the same thing with, you don't need to use pins. You could use your Amazing Air erasable pen. I tend to use pins when I'm doing this because I'm going to use those pins again anyway for pinning it together, and then they're there. And then match your quarters again. So in the instructions I say to you, mark the quarter points, but I don't think I've explained how. I thought you would understand, but if just in case you've never marked quarter points, if you're doing anything bigger than this, if you're sewing a bigger piece of fabric to a bigger circle, then mark 1/8 points, mark them again, or 16th. If I'm doing something that's really tricky and doesn't fit, I would mark it into 8 again. And the way you do that is you fold the quarters together and mark. You know, it's up to you. If you struggle to fit something round, then mark lots of points. So let's put it inside now. Remember, right side, wrong sides together. And then all you do, go across the top and match up those quarters, either with pins or clips. You can take the pins out in a minute. But, you know, anyone who's done any sewing or dressmaking, they will know that they've used this loads of times. If you're setting a sleeve into a dress and it's a gathered sleeve, or if you're doing like a pleated skirt around something, then you match these points. It's exactly the same thing. It's for when you don't think something is going to match, or it's very important that it's evenly spaced, then this is the best way to do it. So now we've only got to match those. So when I first put that lining in, it looked really, really baggy. But now I've matched the quarter points. All you have to do is just pull between them, pinch the centre, and then that's that matched. So that's a much simpler way. Otherwise, if you try and do it without matching the quarter points, you will find that you get all the way to the end and you've got loads of fabric left. And it's because this foam interfacing sort of pulls it in slightly. It doesn't make it smaller, but by doing this as well, because we're going to sew that, but also when you do the bottom, it means that it will all line up properly, that you won't have twisted it. Because if the top quarter points and the bottom quarter points don't match, it'll be, the lining inside will be twisted slightly. So you just do that all the way round again. I'm not going to have time to show you all the sewing together of this, but when you buy your kit, all the instructions are there anyway. I really wanted to show you the pleating because that's very important. Oh, I've run out of clips now. So what you do next, sew that is, you're now going to sew the base on. Now it's up to you, depends how experienced you are and how much sewing you've done. You can sew, you're going to sew the outer and the lining and the base together all in one go. Now, I've done masses of sewing and I would still do this. I think this is the neatest way to do it. I think it's very hard to sew 3 layers together and get them all even. I think it's better to take the extra 3 minutes, maybe 5 tops, to sew 2 layers. So what I would say is sew the lining to the base within the seam allowance and then sew the base on. So you sew, I just haven't got much time left. So if you sew these together, you then take the base. Here's the base. It does feel like a lot of sewing. You take the base and the base then goes in here. Now again, mark the quarter points on the base, which is done in exactly the same way. You can do that with a pen as well. You don't have to do it with a pin if you don't want to, especially when you've run out like I have. Fold it in half, mark your points there, fold it in half again and mark your points there. So part of designing these kits as well is about teaching different techniques. So this is a really good way. By the time you finish this bucket, you will know exactly how to put circles into straight lines. So you match the quarter points in the base into here and you pin that all the way around. To finish it off, as you can see on this one, you bind it. So what I would suggest is you sew this one together all the way around. You pin the base in and honestly it fits perfectly, so it's not difficult to sew. Sew that all the way around, then bind it. And that way you will get a perfect finish. If you try and sew this together with the binding all at the same time, you've got about 6 different layers going on and it's really difficult. So once you've put the base in, you bind the top. Remember the binding strips, they come, here they are. You've got 2 binding strips, they're exactly the same. They come in the kit. So you bind, they come on the panel, the top and the bottom. And then you put the handle in. The handle fabric strip comes on the panel. You can just make the handle, you just sew it in half right sides together. You can just make it normally. I've put a piece of webbing, just thin polyester webbing in there, just it makes it stand up a bit more. You don't have to. So if you haven't got any, don't worry. But you could just put a piece of, there's enough foam wadding left on your foam wadding. Oh, I've got bits of thread all over me. Just realised that. All over my tummy. There's enough foam wadding left in the foam wadding interfacing. You could put a piece of that in and make that your handle. It's up to you. And then all you do, because this is really simple, I've just sewn it on the outside, but I've sewn across. When you do it, sew a square, can you see? And then I've sewn across through the centre of it, and that makes it super strong. So that's the craft basket done. The only one other thing I wanted to explain to you was when you do the pincushion, you're doing the same thing. So now you've learned how to sew a circle into a straight. When you do the pink, this is the pincushion gusset with all the little sewing machines on, is snip the edges. It's much easier. Look, if I pull it apart, can you see I've already done that? Yeah, it's much easier to get a straight edge to bend round a circle edge if you snip it. Now the seam allowance is 1 centimetre, so you don't want to snip beyond 1 centimetre, just a little bit less, like 3/4 centimetre. It doesn't matter too much if you go too far, but try not to. And then when you come to pin this round the edge, now this strip I've created, it's much longer than you need because it's so much easier to pin it round, join it together and then cut off the excess than try and get it exact. So you will have a bit left over, but that's on purpose because it's just easier. When you come to pin this in, start like that, and then you can bend, because you've got these little snips. Well, if I bend that and then take my hands out of the way, you can see how it will curve round a lot better because you've got the little snips in it. Then when you join them together at the end, it will be easier, and then you fill it that way. So those, I just wanted to show that bit. So, and then obviously you've got the scissor case and the tape measure cover, and all the instructions are in there, everything that you need. So I'm going to quickly, just because I've only got 5 minutes left, quickly recap the needle cases. If you missed out on them last week, there are 2 varieties. There's the vintage sewing one, and on the panel you get everything you need to make the hand sewing needle case, which has 1 page for each of the needles. There's 9 needles. If you want to buy the set of needles, we have that as well. So this kit is $14.99. If you want, you can even embroider on top of the words. I didn't, but you can do. And you've got the other side of this page, so you can put even more in them as well. But this will last you forever. And just keep replacing them. Every time your needle gets a bit blunt, buy a new one. They're not very expensive, and it's really worth having the right tools, honestly. And then on the panel as well, you get the sewing machine needles, which if I open it up, has got all the pages. These are really low in stock now, so if you do want them, I would check out now. But all the prints on here match perfectly with the craft storage cases, so it's all one set in together. So if you've got the needles, the storage set will go with it, and vice versa. So we haven't got the machine needle bundles in stock, but we are trying to get hold of them. But you can just use them to put your own needles in anyway. And then the other choice, either vintage sewing or bees, it does exactly the same thing, it's just a different pattern. So you've got the hand sewing needle case and the machine needle case, and you can embroider them, you can applique them. When I appliqued the labels on, I put a piece of felt between the label and the back, and then it raises up a bit. On the panel there are other bees, so you could cut out one of the bees and applique it to the back. But it's quite nice. With this one I embroidered the wings as well, but you don't have to do that, it's just if you want to. You know how sometimes it's just nice to make things your own. You know, I've designed these so that they work and the instructions work, but it's yours. Once you bought it, it belongs to you. You can do whatever you like with it. I would love to see what you do with yours, so please do share, and you know, Amy and I'd love to have your feedback about what you think about them, what you'd like, or what else you'd like to see. So I'll be back with Amber Makes just before Christmas. I've just finished yesterday designing the next kit that sort of matches this. It's going to be part of the set, but with another variety. I'm not going to tell you any more than that because I've only just finished designing it. It's over to Amy now. She's colouring it all in and doing all the designs. So I will be back just before Christmas with the next one. Anyway. See you in a couple of minutes. We'll be back with Katharine, who's going to do some more quilting for us, which we're looking forward to. She's going to make a cushion from folded patchwork, which is a really fascinating technique. I think you'll really enjoy that. So I will see you back in a couple of minutes.
Hello, I'm Katharine Wright. I'm from Leicestershire Craft Centre, which is based in Market Harborough. I love all kinds of sewing, but probably my favourite thing to do is dressmaking. But I also teach patchwork and free motion embroidery and anything to do with textiles really. I love to have a go at felting and crochet and knitting and you name it, I'll have a go at it. So I started sewing when I was 7. My mum taught me to sew, and the very first thing I made was an apron. But I'm a terribly impatient person. I also just want to get on with the project. So I didn't wait for her to help me cut it out, and I cut it out myself, and I didn't know you had to have a seam allowance. So I made the world's smallest apron, and my mum still has it somewhere. Sewing tips, I would say, I teach a lot of people to sew, especially beginners, and I would say don't get disheartened. Take your learning journey slowly. Don't expect to suddenly make a ball gown or suddenly make a king-size quilt. Build up your skills, you know, slowly. And I would also say that iron is your friend. Use your iron a lot. It makes your sewing look so much better. It helps you get things in place where you want it before you sew, and is a really handy thing to have.
Have you heard about Yarn Lane, a TV show dedicated to knitting, crochet and all things yarn, bringing you demonstrations from our expert guests as well as the latest tools. And find out what's coming up on the show by following us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to our email newsletter or visit the programme guide on our website at www.yarnlane.com. While we're having to spend more time at home again, we're here to keep you busy and entertained. Sewing Street will be live every day from 8 a.m, bringing you plenty of demonstrations with our experts in dressmaking, quilting, bag making, toy making, needle felting, embroidery and so much more. Our community of fellow sewists on the Sewing Street fans Facebook group are there to chat to you about whatever you're making, sharing photos and advice. Check out the Sewing Street Facebook and Instagram pages for fun competitions and offers.
Welcome back to Sewing Street. Sorry, just taking a drink of water. It's like, oh, right. So Catherine's back with us, showing this fantastic folded star patchwork. I love this. Isn't that beautiful? It's a really, really clever technique where you fold, really, oh, I can show it flat. Very old patchwork technique, but you fold the fabric and then you sew it all together and it creates this star effect, but it also makes it very thick, so you get a really lovely textured feel. It's really lovely. So Catherine's going to be showing us that in a bit, and the great thing about these is these are available as fabric panels, so that all the pieces you need are here. You haven't got to buy extra fabric that you don't need. It's all printed onto the panels. So there are 3 colourways available. Let me show you. There's the red one that she's done, that Katharine has already made. This is the blue one. It's very big. So I'm going to try and unfold it all. Look at it. Folded star cushion, blue china. Look how big it is. So all the pieces are here. You haven't got to even think about measuring. All seam allowances are included. You haven't got to think about measuring. All you've got to do is cut them out. Okay? So we go all the way, and we've got, this is lovely. You've got lovely, it's blue china print. So you've got florals, you've got big florals, small florals, plains, leaves. And then on this side, got a really nice geometric print. I recognise this. This one is on the outer edge of the cushion. You've got labels, binding, got the sides, the edges. You've even got the backing pieces. So to make the back of the cushion, which has got a fold, an envelope back, there's the 2 pieces at the back. So you don't need anything else, well, except for some thread, because all the pieces for the folded star are here. You've got the backing and you've got the binding. And that's it. You need a piece of foundation fabric, but that's just a very, that's just a plain piece of white fabric. But other than that, all the sort of patchwork fabrics are on here. So that's the blue china version. Right. And then, I love this one. This one is called charcoal. It's very classy, this one. There we go. So they're exactly the same prints, but just in a different colour. So this one's, well, it's like a dark charcoal grey, and then you've got lighter greys and medium greys. You've got the same sort of large floral, small floral, leaves, ferns, plains, like a check sort of herringbone one that goes on the sides. Can't really describe that. Sort of like crosses. crosses that go on the sides. You've got the 2 pieces for the cushion envelope back, which is this lovely soft grey floral, and then you've got the pieces here, but you've also got 2 labels, handmade with love by, so you could make this for somebody and you could either write their name with a permanent pen or you could embroider on it, and all the pieces you need for the inner edges and the sides. That's the charcoal version. And then there is also the red version, but that's the one that we've got made into the cushion. So I haven't got the panel here, but I have got the cushion. But if you look on the website, there is a picture. There we go. That is what the panel looks like. It looks exactly the same as the blue china and the charcoal, only it's red. It's not like a super bright strawberry red or anything. It's more like a soft burgundy red. So it's not sort of bright red in your face. It really should be called wine. That's what I'd say it is. It's more wine and charcoal rather than red. So that you get that in your kit, and you also get the instructions. There we go, folded star cushion. And there's all the pictures. We've got full colour photos, everything you need. So the only thing that you will need to buy on top of this is the background fabric, which is a 10 by 10 inch of just like a calico or a muslin, something like that, just a plain cotton fabric. But you need that as the foundation fabric. We haven't put that on the panel because it's just a plain piece of fabric. Seemed a bit of a waste because we would rather have put the cushion back on and all the other things you need. So everything you need to know is all on here. How to do it, and obviously Catherine's going to demonstrate it now to show you, but you don't need to remember any measurements or details. It is all written here and the instructions come with the panel. So that's everything you need to know about the panels. So Catherine.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
What did you think about this design?
Do you know what? I really enjoyed it, and I was quite surprised that I enjoyed it, because having done this one, which was a super fast whiz it up, this one's like a take your time, be careful.
Okay.
Little bit of fabric origami. But I was so pleased with the effect of it. Yeah. It's the first time I've ever had a go at anything like this. I wouldn't normally choose a project like this, but I did really enjoy doing it.
So where do we start with the
panel? So where
panel?
do we start? So with the panel, you will have got 64 little rectangles, 8 of each print.
Right.
So you need to cut all of those out, which you can see I've done already, because I didn't think you'd want to watch me cutting out 64 squares. And what I've also done is I have pressed over 1/4 of an inch on each piece.
As it says.
Yeah, and I've stacked them into groups of 8.
Okay.
All in the
same. So
same
I guess you could cut them with a
order.
rotary cutter, couldn't you?
I cut them out with a rotary cutter. And
so
it
you
was
cut them all, fold and press them all.
Yeah, so I just had a nice sort of half an hour doing that yesterday, getting that ready. It didn't
so you
take
could
too
sort
long.
of think, like, one evening I'll do this, or you could do the whole thing in one go, or you could do it in little stages. It's broken up into sort of chunks.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you press all of them.
So you get them
right.
all pressed ready with that just 1/4 inch. And then your foundation piece, so it's a 10-inch square. Now you don't see any of this once it's all made.
Right.
So as long as you've got, it wants to be fairly sturdy, so cotton or calico, you wouldn't want anything too floppy. And you've got to be able to see, you can see I've drawn
Right, okay.
a vertical, horizontal and diagonal to diagonal crosses. Now I've drawn them in biro so that you can see them really well, and you do need to be able to see them. But once it's all put together, you don't see any of that.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter really what you use for that foundation, as long as you can see your lines.
Okay.
Okay. So the first thing you do is we are going to take our little stack of colour.
So do you have one of each fabric?
I have got one of each fabric, and I have got them hopefully all in the same order.
Right.
Because if you don't, you'll be unpicking later on.
Which will make
you won't
sense
get
in
your
a moment.
star.
Okay.
Okay, now you want to find the centre of your rectangle. So I'm just going to finger press that in so you can see. And the centre of your rectangle is going to go on your line, and it's going to line up with that horizontal. And then we're going to place each little rectangle on with about 1/4 of an inch between each
So do you
one.
need to measure that?
Well, you can. I'm a devil for just doing everything by eye.
But does it need to be...
It wants to be nice and even.
Right, yeah, okay.
Yes.
So you can't be just random.
No.
Place.
This is a be careful, take your time, and get it right sort of a project. So we're just going to layer them all.
So you could use
up.
that 1/4 inch ruler, couldn't you?
Yes, if you've got a nice one of those ones that
Yes.
does it.
Can't think what it's called.
Okay. When you've got them on like
Add
that,
a 1/4 ruler.
we're going to just pop a pin in just to hold them in
Yeah,
place.
so you could measure and mark each one to get them the exact
could.
distance apart.
Now, if you've got them right, you'll see like that, it's come down to the edge of
okay.
a 10-inch square.
Magic.
I think I've spent so many years doing it all by eye that I'm not too bad at it now.
No, that's the thing, isn't it? Is
Yeah.
that it's actually sometimes harder to measure and match 1/4 inch than do it by eye.
So you're going
Okay.
to then turn it round, and we're going to do exactly the same down the other central line. So we will have 2 little rows.
But the fabrics have got to be in the same order.
They need to be in the
Okay.
same order, because when we eventually fold them all, if you haven't got the same one next to each other, your star won't go around
Okay.
properly. I did have to re-sew one on the cushion that I made up there, because I realised I'd alternated a design. So, you know, just to spend the time getting them lined up and whatever to start off with is a good plan, I think. Then you're not going to have that problem. But because these have all been printed beautifully for you in advance, it does mean that, you know, when you've cut them out, they are all the same, and they're going to go
Yeah,
together
and it's
nicely
important
for
actually
you.
with this design that you have small scale prints,
Yes.
because you only see a small amount peeking out.
You do. I particularly like the little feathery one that just sort of alternates between the
that's
flowers.
nice, isn't it?
Okay.
And also you alternate them in colour as well.
Yes, that gives a really nice effect. I love this china blue colourway actually. I think it's really nice. It reminds me of my mum's kitchen. She has lots of lovely china blue pottery.
It is very cute. It'd look lovely on your kitchen chair, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So just pop it. Now, you as soon as you got all these in and getting your pin through, you can see it's quite hard. There's a lot of layers starting to form. Okay, but it's just going to hold it in place. Right, when you've got it like this, you are going to draw yourself a line down
Okay.
the middle, which
So
is
then
going to be your stitching line.
So this is your heat erasable pen.
Yes, which they
Again.
are really good. I really do have to buy myself one.
I have loads of them.
Have you?
Well, you can buy them in 2 thicknesses as well, and I think I've got every colour of both thicknesses. Just love them.
Because every time I come here and use them, I'm just like, these are so good. This is what I need.
It's so good.
Okay, so you can see, hopefully see my line down the middle there. And then you are going to stitch down that line.
Okay. Do you use like just a matching thread?
Yeah, now,
All over
yes,
top.
it says in the instructions to use a thread that matches, because the bit that you see, you will see it on this last blue one. Now I've actually got a contrast in, but that will help you see it on the screen better where
Right,
I've
okay.
sewn. But if you don't want it to be seen, then I would use a blue for this,
Okay.
a burgundy for the red, and so on. I'm just following that line all the way down. Okay, so you can see my stitching. Right. Now we're going to do exactly the same thing on the vertical line, but we need to fold these out of the way.
Okay.
And as you do that, so you've got to be a little bit careful. If you fold it too hard, you can see I'm going to pull up the bottom and it won't stay nice and flat. So just make sure you're keeping everything as flat as possible.
Okay. It's really interesting to see how this is coming together, isn't it?
When I first got it and I looked at it, I thought, oh, this looks really complicated, looks really difficult. And then when you get going with it, you kind of go, no, this is all right.
This is fine.
It is. It's fine. It's not as hard as it looks, But
I guess
it is
it's the
so,
prep, isn't it? You've got to cut them out and you've got to do that pressing them over 1/4 inch
Yes.
each time. That makes a big difference,
So just
doesn't
find
it?
that centre. And just getting them lined up nice and neatly.
Yeah.
So on here, we want to try and get it as close to this middle point as possible.
So it's
You
almost
I'm sort
butting up to
That's
it.
right, because you don't want a little gap in the middle if you can,
Okay.
if you can help it. And then in the same way, we're going to place these down.
It's a real talking point, this cushion, as well, isn't it? Because people would look at it and think, wow, how did you do that? How does that work? How
I
did
sent
you-"
one or two people pictures while I was doing it, and they were like, this looks really good.
Yeah, and it's the fact that there is a lot of fabric there, but it feels like it, doesn't it? It feels so
It gives it a really
squishy.
nice feel at the end.
Yeah.
You know, you haven't got to do any quilting on it. It's just
No, not at all. It is beautiful.
Just move that one down very slightly. Okay. Couple of pins just to hold it again. Just because you don't want to kind of pick it up and then flip around everywhere and move.
Yeah, so
and
you just
lose
sort
your
of just put
positioning.
enough
It's
in just to hold it.
Yeah, when you can get your pin through. I bent my pin. Okay, so that's that side, and then I need to flip these over and do the same on this
Okay.
side. Oh, the head's come off by that pin. I'm destroying all the pins this morning. Okay, so just... So I know it might seem like it's a little bit of a wrestle, but it's well worth it. It really
Yeah,
is.
just so you get that centre nice and matched.
That's it. I'll just... and my pin stuck because the head had come off. Okay, so...
It's a rumbling noise.
There is.
Yeah,
Be
really
like,
loud.
did you hear what they had in Scotland? What was it? Thunder.
Thunder snow.
Thunder
Oh,
snow. Didn't that-
wow, I've never ever
Yeah.
heard of that before.
No.
It was fantastic though, wasn't it? It was like suddenly, like overnight, there was...
Yes, it woke
Just-
everybody up, didn't it?
Never heard of thunder snow.
No, I hadn't either. Right, we need to just bend these out the way so I can draw the line again.
Suppose you could clip them, couldn't you? Or...
We could try a clip, but it's having something to clip it to.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure
Would
a clip
that
would
work or not?
No, because you
Is that a
need to
silly
pin
idea?
it, fold it back
Silly
on itself.
idea. Don't clip them. Don't clip them.
Just nice strong pins, I think. That's it.
It's just to hold them out of the place.
It is, yes, because again, I've got to draw my line down and that's where I'm going to sew.
So if you don't have an erasable pen, you could use a pencil or some chalk.
I used a pencil at home because I often use pencil because I haven't yet invested in one of these fantastic
in
things.
highly expensive
I know.
huge erasable pens. I never used to use them because I thought, oh, I bet they mark, but they leave a mark. And
No,
then
they're
I-
really brilliant.
But they really don't.
I need one in my stocking.
Father Christmas.
Anybody in my family who's watching.
Or a pack would be even nicer of a choice of colours.
Yes, because they
I
come in
wish-
different colours, don't they?
Well, they do, but I wish they did them in sort of white or yellow so that you could mark dark fabrics, but I haven't found that yet. They need
Now
to do
that
white
is
ones.
the one, you see, I've moved a pin there and that had just flopped down, so you can see why you need to pin them. I always think that's I've never found the best thing yet for marking dark fabrics.
There is a really good white chalk pencil. Can't remember what it's called. We used to sell it. It's like a propelling pencil, one that you press on top, and it's white, and that's fantastic. So easy. It's by Sew Line. Yes.
Although I have to say,
Yeah.
this is a dark blue and the black is showing up very
Yeah, it's
well on
only
it.
if you're on like a really black fabric, but then I use the Sew Line pencils for that because they are really sharp.
Okay, so can you guess where we're going now? We are now going to do the same thing along our diagonals.
Whoa, okay. So we've got 8.
We've got 8 little lots that we're going to do. There's going to be so much fabric on here.
I can see.
in the end. But you can't start folding it until you've got them all on.
No, and then that's the fun bit.
And then that's the fun bit. So I'm getting them on as quickly as I can so I can show you the folding bit.
Because I was thinking you could sew them all together first, but then they might not match exactly. You could sew them in groups of 8, but then they might not match exactly, and they might not fit.
Yeah.
And then you have to unsew them.
I'm not sure. I think this is the best way because you've got all your lines to line them up with.
And they've got to line, haven't they? So that wouldn't be. I was just looking at your little stacks there, but then you wouldn't be absolutely guaranteed they'll match, would you?
No. Now with your diagonals as well, you see, it doesn't go all the way down to the corner.
Right.
So don't try and make it go down to the corner. It's not supposed to, else you'll have really big gaps and then it won't work. Because if you look on the actual cushion, we put on our lovely little extra bit to
there's
cover
the
those,
extra bit that covers that.
those corners to make it nice and neat at the end. So don't worry, that's supposed to happen.
Otherwise you'd end up with 1-inch gaps if you tried to do that.
Yeah.
That wouldn't work at all.
But you know, sometimes you do these things and you have a mind block and you're thinking, why is it not fitting? Don't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess it is getting that centre butted up that's key, isn't it?
It is. As close as possible. And by this point, it is starting to get a little bit tricky because we've got a lot of other fabric there. But do you know what? I enjoyed the sort of rhythmical precision of it.
It's a bit like...
It's quite a mindful one,
FPP.
this one.
I think that's why I like FPP, because it's very precise and you have to do things in a very set order and a set way and just accept that. But then it just comes together. It's not the sort of thing you want to do in a rush. You need to have that nice rainy afternoon where you think, I'm going to do folded style today.
Absolutely.
Be lovely to use to cover like a footstool or something like that.
Oh wow, it would actually because it's got the paddedness to it.
If you had one of those little, or just a small stool.
Yes, because you could add as big or as small a border as you wanted to on it.
But if you had like a circular stool that had a cushion on something, it would be really nice for that because it would really, because it's so padded.
So again, I'm going to draw my line through the middle to give me something to follow. So in a way, there's not that much sewing.
No. How do you find it goes through the machine with all those layers?
It starts to get a little bit, bulky. You could put, my mind's gone, a walking foot on if you've got one. But I have to say, I did the demo one without a walking foot because I hadn't got one handy at home.
And it's fine?
And it was fine.
Okay. I guess you just need to take it a bit slow. I always find it's when you go fast and then your needle catches at a slight angle, that's when it breaks. I suppose also getting that absolutely straight line is quite important as well.
Yes, couldn't talk then, I was just concentrating.
Don't talk, I'm concentrating.
Else my straight line won't be a straight line. Okay, so we're down to the last two now. Can you see how they're all getting?
Yeah.
Yes. And you think, what am I doing?
What am I doing? There's all this stuff. But because they're all sewn in, they're all nice and secure.
They are. At this point, they are not going anywhere. Just try and just keep them out the way as best as possible. I would probably say it's not a complete beginner's project.
Okay, yeah.
Just because it does need you to be quite precise.
It's got to be quite precise. You've got to have a little bit of experience of
and also just dealing with the kind of bulky layers.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're really new to it, I'd maybe work your way up to this one.
Yeah, but you don't need to be an expert.
No,
You
not
just need to
at all.
kind of use the sewing machine and a bit of pressing, really. Be a nice thing though to do with someone. So if you could sew and somebody else couldn't or was new, it'd be a good project to do with somebody. Because you could really show them lots of techniques, you know, the importance of pressing, turning over, measuring, sewing slowly.
Yes, I have a lovely, lovely, lovely little girl who comes on my sewing club, who's a fantastic, she's a really good little sewer. She's only 9, but she's really good, but she does want to whiz everything really fast. And we do end up unpicking quite a lot. And I keep saying, Eva, if you just slow down a bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get there and I won't have to keep unpicking it.
It is difficult though, isn't it?
I know, we all want, especially when you're 9. It's taken me 40 odd years to learn to be patient, and I'm still not that patient.
But when you've got the time and you take things slowly, it's much more satisfying because you get it right and you can think about it.
It is. And actually, it's just really enjoyable to do something slowly, isn't it?
Yeah.
How often do we race around? I
know,
race around
and I think
so
you
much.
sort of have to remember, like, oh, is this a quick make? Is it a quick make? It's not supposed to be. This isn't about well, it is about the finished article, but the love of sewing isn't just about the finished article. It's about the joy of the journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
this is a really pleasing one to do. And to, if you've got a really nice, a rainy or like today, foggy afternoon, then just to sit and do this and, you know, have a bit of music on in the background.
Yeah,
just
cup of
really
tea,
relaxing.
packet of shortbread fingers.
Oh, yes. Although I don't get much sewing done if the shortbread's out.
Few fig rolls, perhaps.
They're my husband's, one of his favourites, fig rolls.
Love a fig roll.
I like shortbread, particularly ones with chocolate chunks in.
Very nice. Oh gosh. Oh, oh yes.
I tell you what, we cracked open yesterday. We were getting a little bit festive. You know the nice little German sort of cakes.
I love those. Those gingerbready ones.
Yes.
Very nice. But it is the joy of doing it, isn't it? I mean, I know sometimes we're in it sort of think, oh, I want to get this finished, it's taken ages. But it is the pleasure. And I think people who don't sew don't really understand that either.
No, it's as much about the doing, isn't it, as what you've made at the end, I think. Sometimes.
Well, they say, oh, I don't know how you have the patience. I don't know. Well, it's because I quite enjoy it. That's why. It's not just, I'm not doing this because I have to. This is my hobby. I didn't choose this hobby because I have to. It's actually, I have the patience because I enjoy doing it. And also, the unpicking is so frustrating. So if you take a little bit of time, I mean, obviously, I unpick all the time, even when I've taken time.
Oh gosh, yes.
Just because I've got it wrong or I haven't read the instructions properly.
So at this stage on my demo one, I'd mixed one of my flowers up, and it was on my last little one like this. And then I started the folding, and I was like, got that wrong. Yeah. Got to just undo that and read it. So
even if you've taken your time, but
do make sure that you've got them in the right order.
It's the way you learn as well, and I think sometimes as well, when you keep getting it wrong, that's when you need to step back. So I'll start again in an hour, I'll have a cup of tea, or I'll come back tomorrow. Because
if it keeps going wrong, put it away for a bit, definitely.
Put it in a carrier bag, put it under the table.
Find it in 3 years' time.
Yeah, come back to it and go, okay.
I had a lady come and finish a pair of trousers that she'd started 15 years ago. Yeah, and they still fitted her, which was impressive. But I was like, I can't believe that you have actually finished them. That's amazing.
And she still wanted to have them as
well.
Yeah,
they were really nice. Yeah.
That's really impressive.
That's the longest one.
How far had she got? She cut them out?
Yeah, she cut them out. She started putting them together.
And that was it?
She just hadn't finished them.
15 years.
So we finished them.
Well, that's brilliant.
But she's got all the, she's got all the pieces. She hadn't lost anything.
She just hadn't finished
It had just been in the bag under the table.
I'm impressed they still fitted her, actually, to be honest.
Well, I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, 15 years. I know last year in December I had this thing I decided I was going to finish loads of projects. I got loads and loads of them done. Things that I never thought I'd get finished.
Right. So we've got all our 64 rectangles, in place. So let's undo these. Just get my pins out. This one. Okay, now it doesn't really matter where you start actually.
Okay. So it doesn't matter whether it's the corners or the straights?
Not really, no. No. So you're going to open out between two. You're going to take the right hand side one and fold it down. Now you can just finger press these as you go. You don't need to get your iron out. So you've got a little rectangle and a little bit extra at the bottom. That's going to fold down into the centre, and then you're going to take it back half fold like that. So it's like so.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to do the same on the other side. It is at this point you need extra hands. So we've got 2 like that. That should hopefully meet in the middle like that. Yeah?
Right.
And then we take the next one. This time we only fold it once. We don't fold it back on itself, and it folds over the top.
Oh, so it's just the centre one that you do that?
It's just the very
Right.
centre one that has the double fold over the top like that. So it's like wrapping up a little baby, swaddling it up. Okay, but go in the same direction every time. So it's the right hand one first, and
Okay,
then the
then
left
fold
hand
it
one.
over.
And then when you've done, I think it's 3. Let me just check. Yeah. Okay, we can pop a pin in to hold it, and we're going to do a little bit of stitching just to hold it in place. So when you come to stitch it, make sure you stitch it down here. We don't want the next folded bits to be too high and show your stitching. If you've sewn it up here, we'll see the stitching, and we don't want to. We just want to secure it down.
Oh, so how many do you do before?
So I've done 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
And then I'm going to just do a little V shape
At the very bottom.
near the bottom to hold it in
Is that
place.
because it won't all hold?
Yeah, and it's just going to get bulkier and bulkier, and it just secures it as you go along and makes it a bit easier for you. But it doesn't have to be anything particularly neat or wonderful. It's literally like that. You probably can't see that, but just a little V to show. Okay, and then we carry on with our folding. So the right hand one and the left hand one. So you can see that covers over my stitching. So you do 2 more and a little bit of stitching again. See, it's already looking quite pretty, isn't it?
It's really clever. It is. It's like wrapping a cape round somebody, isn't it? A cake. A cape, not a cake.
So again, another little V, and this isn't too bulky to sew. This is not too bad at all, because you're only going through a couple of layers at a time. Okay, another 2 in the same way. And stitch, and then our very last one we're not going to stitch, we're just going to pin. You see, you start to get that nice raised effect going on.
It's like little pockets, aren't there? In amongst it.
Okay, stitch that on. And then your very last one comes over the top, and you're just going to pin this one in place because it will get stitched in when you put your corners on.
Ah, okay. So that one.
Yeah, so that one can just be pinned. So that is the first point,
Wow.
like so.
That's amazing.
So we'll rotate it round.
So do you do them one after another after another?
Yes, so work your way round.
Yeah, you can't do like the opposite side, and it has to be.
I don't think I would try that, no. I think you want to...
You need to be doing it in rotation.
Yes,
Okay.
because it's going to then all the folds are going to go in the right direction, aren't they?
Yes, I guess by doing it that way, you know that they'll be folded in the right way.
Yeah.
Because you get used to the right over left. If you miss one, you might end up left over right. Or
Oh, very easily, I think. Yes.
Okay.
So there's my central one again that's got the double fold. So you fold over and then fold it back on itself. And then we start to just do the single folds over the top.
So all of this, you don't have to remember it, it's all in the instructions, isn't it?
It is, stage by stage. And I think the pictures are quite clear to show
actually,
you
yes.
what you should be doing. And I think definitely once you've done one, you've got the, you'll easily get the hang of it.
Yeah, and it's just remembering that that first one has like a double fold. Okay, we've got a message. What's the message? Hello ladies, loving the demo. What stitch length have you used, please?
It's just on its default, which is 2.4 on this particular machine.
Okay. Just
If
normal.
you found it was pretty bulky, I would probably make it a little bit longer, maybe
Right.
like 3. So doing those central ones, if your machine's going to struggle to cope with it, just make it a bit longer. I think I had it on 3 when I did my one at home.
Okay. I guess because you've got a lot of layers, but...
Yeah. So nothing fancy.
Nothing unusual in a stitch length. Just a normal one.
I'd definitely make more of these. They're fun.
Could
And
make a
do you know what? Possibly the thing I am worst at craft-wise is origami. Yeah, paper stuff, absolutely shocking. I cannot do origami to save my life. But with fabric, somehow it's different, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it is different. But this is quite simple, isn't it? Because you're just folding in half.
Yes.
You're not trying to make a bird.
No, thank goodness. When I was doing it, I did idly sort of think, oh, I wonder what other fabric origami things you could make. And then I quickly dismissed that idea.
Well, there are. Do you remember on the sewing bean? I think it might have been last year.
Oh, they did like a top,
They did an
didn't
origami
they?
section.
Yeah, that looked really hard.
Which was incredible, wasn't it? It was like a whole thing with origami. And there are some beautiful clothing you can make in it.
Yes.
I mean, it is lovely. Maybe we should look into that, because I love this technique, because once you've bought the kit and mastered the cushion, you've then got the instructions, you can go on from that.
Well,
You could
absolutely,
make-
because I believe, well, I think your rectangles are 4 inches by 3 inches. So, yes, you could easily make it again.
And you could make a floor cushion. That'd be nice and squidgy, wouldn't it?
So
Make
there's
it even bigger.
There's the second
But-
one. So you can see we have 2 points.
Okay.
of our
Oh, it's really
star
coming together
coming.
now. It's looking
Yeah.
like a star. I do like that blue china.
It's very
colourway.
nice colourway, isn't it?
Yeah, you do really need 2 different colours, don't you?
Yes, yes. The contrast, I think, is important.
But then you could do it in rainbow, couldn't you?
Oh, wow. Now that would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Rainbow star.
Yes. And there's 8 colours, so yes, you could.
Okay.
Or eight different rows, so you could choose 8 different colours. And that would work just as well and look cool. So as you do it, you want to just make sure, because obviously it's all quite bulky, just that you're really getting everything kind of tucked in enough.
Yeah, I guess to get that precision, you've got to get it all tucked in and neat. So I suppose you could,
Yeah, I'm
if you
pulling
found it
quite
easy, you
tightly.
could press it as you go along, couldn't you? You could
You
fold
could.
one.
I think you'd need I think you'd possibly need one of those little
Oh,
irons to
okay.
get in there, just
Yeah,
because
that's
there's
true.
not a huge amount of space,
Yeah.
and to kind of hold it and fold it and press it could
Yeah, see what you
could
mean.
be quite tricky.
Or you could sew it every single one, couldn't you? If you were starting.
You
off
could,
and-
if you felt happier doing that, you could do, absolutely. Yeah, just make sure you get sort of push it in with your nail, and then you'll get it nice and flat. You do need to hold it fairly firmly. Be, you know, be positive with it. It's lovely seeing it appear on.
I know.
I was watching it on the screen there, and it's like, I'm seeing it appear myself.
Yeah, it's really nice, isn't it? Yeah, it is very minimal sewing.
There's not much sewing at all. No. But yeah, and I mean, you can see as I'm going, really, it's not that difficult, but it's just so effective, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it just, like you say, it just requires a bit of time and a bit of patience, and don't rush through it, but just get it right. Because I guess if you fold in it's wrong, you've only got to unfold and start that little bit again.
Absolutely. Oh, I appear to have lost power to my machine.
Oh.
Oh, there it is. Oh, that was weird.
Oh, that's odd.
Oh no, it's gone again. What's it doing?
Did it come unplugged?
No. I'm just going to keep my foot on the plug down here, except then I can't do the, that's it.
Oh, that's strange. Is the plug not fitting in very well?
It's like maybe there's a slight little loose connection or something in there.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Someone sent in a picture of cushion they've...
Oh, yes. Oh, in the Christmas colours. Isn't that gorgeous?
Wonderful demonstration of how to make the folded star, very concise and making it look very doable to those who haven't attempted. Here's the one I made last year.
It's
That's
lovely.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, thank you, Patricia. I think it's easy to look at things and feel daunted, isn't it? You look and you think, oh, it's too hard for me. But often they're not, you know. And you've got a tutorial here you can go back and have a look at if you buy the panel and then you think, oh, I forgot what we're up
it's just
to.
always
You can
remember what day it was, because then when you get your kit through, you can go back and watch and see how to do it. And it's something that looks quite daunting, but when you actually break it down stage by stage, it really isn't.
No. And you can always, I've discovered you can Google, Sewing Street folded star.
Right,
it will
yes,
pop up.
That's true, actually, yes. So if you don't want to, if you can't remember what day it was, things do come
Because
out.
I don't know at the moment. Have you any idea what the date and day is? They're all rolling into one at the moment.
No, it's about the 6th, I think, or ish. 7th, it's the 7th. About that. Question, can you put a dab of glue on each fold to hold it?
Well, I don't see why you couldn't actually, but only a small one, because you don't want to make it feel crunchy.
You'd have a lot of glue otherwise, wouldn't you?
Yeah, just a tiny dab, you could. I say yes if you want to.
If you want to, yeah. I think maybe with the first row that you do, you might end up pressing each one or sewing each one, but as you worked your way round, like you said, you'd get better at it, wouldn't you?
Yes, you would.
Then the folding would become easier. That's what I like about a lot of these repetitive tasks, is that, you know, it's a bit like when you're making quilt blocks. You get much better at it, don't you? Like, oh, I'm zooming through this. So maybe to start with, you'd have to press it a bit more or glue it, but you've obviously got the hang of it now.
Well, that was my practice one over there.
There you go.
The second one you make is always better than your first.
Always.
Always.
Yeah. And then sometimes you have to go back and do the first one again.
But I was a bit worried we wouldn't perhaps get very far with this in the show, but actually it's come together quicker than I thought.
You did all the beforehand, you cut them all out and did the pressing, which takes a bit of time.
Yes.
Although you can use a rotary cutter to do all the pressing. But other than that, everything else you've done now.
Yeah. And even the pressing wasn't too bad. you know, you get your eye in, don't you, to these things. Yeah. I think I measured the first one.
Okay. Well, also, I think if you measure a few, then your eye sort of then goes to that then, doesn't it? Yeah. Your eye, you know what you're looking for.
See, on the back, you just get your little rows. You only get a tiny bit of your stitching. It's funny, isn't it? But of course, you don't see any of that when it all gets put together. Yeah, when you look how much there's on there, you can only see a few rows. Tiny bit of stitching on the front. I'm going to see if I can get these folded really, really quite swiftly so you can see the finished star.
How many have you done now?
I've done 1, 2, 3, 4.
Wow.
Oh, I'm only halfway. I may not in 10 minutes. That may be a little optimistic even for me.
I know, but you
can see half a star.
Yeah, you can really see the effect. Well, we can see from the red one anyway what the finished thing looks like. Although they should have called it wine.
Yes, it's not a bright red at all, is it?
They should have called it Côte de Rhône. Maybe a Merlot.
But it's a nice soft colour.
It is. Well, it is wine, isn't it?
Yes. And I mean, I think...
Oh, it's not a Chateauneuf de Pape. That's much too rich. I think it's a Côte de Rhône. It's a light and fruity red.
I think a red like that would go with a lot of people's home decor,
yes,
where
would,
a scarlet red would be very Christmassy.
Would be very Christmassy. I mean, in fact, wouldn't it look lovely in reds and greens?
Yes, like the lady he sent in her picture. But I like this. Although it is a star, this can stay in the blues. You know, you've got all year round. You've got that's out impressing people every time they come and visit, which is not at the moment, but when they can.
No, but it is a real talking point, isn't it? Everyone goes, wow, that's amazing. How did you do that? You go, oh, days.
I mean, don't you think this would be a lovely, lovely present for somebody?
Yes, it would, yeah. I think this is a great kit because if someone can sew, or it's a present you could give someone that you did with them, maybe with children or grandchildren, because you could do it together. You could say, well, you do the folding and I'll do the sewing. Well, you can do the next thing. But it is a lovely present because, in fact, all you need once you've bought the kit, you only need that 10-inch square is the only other thing you need.
Absolutely.
Oh, we've got another message. Morning. You've made an amazing project look easy. You've convinced me even I can do it. So I purchased one. Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Zoe.
Oh, well.
Hooray.
Great.
You can do it. Of course you can do it.
Oh, Zoe, you have to make sure when you've made it that you put a picture up on the Sewing Street put it on the
thing, on the Facebook fan page. We would love to see it. Of course you can do it.
It's really nice seeing what everybody makes on there.
It is. Well, I like the way that, that you don't have to follow everything to the letter, take your own spin on it, change the fabrics around, see what happens if you put something else in, change some of that. You could say, right, well, I'm going to change one of the fabrics to something I've got, and it's just really nice. Or what did you make yours into? You can make it into a table mat, couldn't you? That'd be a super chunky table mat.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
I don't know how well things would balance.
No. But maybe it's more of a centrepiece.
Very much so.
Very a centrepiece. But it's just really nice. And I think it looks like a really enjoyable thing to do.
It is. It's really pleasing and satisfying, actually.
And I like crafts as well, where you can do all at once, but also where you can break it up into chunks. So you think, right, I'm going to cut out the pieces. Then I'll walk away. Then I'm going to press them. And it's nice to be able to do that because for some of us, we don't have whole days to sew or we don't have the space.
That's right. And I mean, you can get to this stage. You don't have to do all the folding in one go. Everything's secure. You're not going to lose any bits at this point. You can go off.
Because if you don't have a dedicated sewing space, so everything that you get out, you then have to pack away. This is a really nice little craft where you just need the machine and an iron. And then you can put it away.
And it's not too big either, is it? If you like patchwork, but you haven't got room to do massive things, this is brilliant because it is just small.
Do it with the telly on. Sewing Street, obviously.
Yeah.
We don't watch any of the telly. We only watch Sewing Street.
Not even a bit of Strictly.
Yeah, well, okay, can have a bit of Strictly. Oh, Laura hasn't watched the results from last night, so we're not allowed to talk about it.
Oh no, I will say no more.
We won't talk about it. Who won? I don't know who's your winner, Catherine.
Who do I like? Well, who the winner is and who I like are usually different people, to be fair.
Okay, who would you like to win?
Well, actually, I think Harvey's looking really good with Jeanette. And I do like him, but I do like Bill. Well, I like Bill, but I do really like Ranveer as well. I like all of them, don't I? I just really enjoy it as a programme. I think it's such a nice programme to watch. And
Just gentle.
it is. Nice family viewing. And I like the costume. I love the costumes.
Yeah. I'm always impressed, though, how quickly they make them. And then I think...
Oh, I know.
What if they've made it and then that person goes out? So surely they don't, and therefore
I think they make them in the week, don't they?
Then
The
how
week before.
how do they do that?
I think they literally are probably sewing 24 hours a day.
Or maybe
Because then they fit them on the Thursday, don't they? And
Or do they have a whole team just on one costume? Because how would you do it? But then you couldn't all sew it at the same time. So I never really understand that. Because some of them have hundreds of sequins.
I know,
and
it's really
beads.
impressive.
I always think, God, it must cost an absolute fortune.
I wonder what happens to them all.
Yeah.
Because if it was me on Strictly, I'd be wanting to keep some of those dresses.
Yeah.
I'd be doing my housework in them.
Or maybe they recycle and use them again the next year. Because they must have a costume department
I suppose.
who just purely work on that. And it must be really annoying as well. Say you're the costume lady and you've got an idea for next week and then your person gets voted out and then you can't...
Do you think they may be planned all in advance?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, could we
sure.
get this person out this week? Because we have no idea what to dress them in. And, and the lady does the sequins is off sick. Who knows? So how many have we got round? We need to do a quick recap on
1,
the
2,
kits.
3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, we're good. Well, should we do a quick
I'm
recap
going to
on the
going to
kits?
stand and fold
While
while
you
you
stand
recap
and
to see if I
fold.
can get the last two folded.
So the one that Catherine is doing at the moment is the blue and white version. So let me show you the panel. It's massive. There's a lot of fabric. Well, you can see how much fabric's in it. There's a lot of fabric. This is the most popular one. I'm not surprised because it's lovely. This is kitchen or bedroom actually. Blue and white is a very nice bedroom, but it would look lovely in the kitchen, wouldn't it? But what I like about this is it's got the cushion back. And so you don't have to look around and see if you can find some fabric that's going to coordinate with it because the back is already here. And it's an envelope back. So if you want to put a zip in it, you'll have a bit of fabric over because you won't need as much as that. But if you haven't got a zip, you've got the envelope back. These are all the little rectangles that you need, all those loads and loads that Catherine was saying she cut out. Even included in here is the binding fabric. So at the bottom, you see the strips there, those are for binding it because what you do is you make the front from all the patchwork, you put the borders on it, then you make the cushion back, then you put them together, wrong sides together, and then you bind it and that does the edge. So you've got the binding fabric, you've got, those are all the little rectangles, you've got the side borders, the inner edges, all the side pieces, you've got some labels as well, some little flowers. Just add little extra flowers should you want them. So they're lovely, aren't they? But all the colours, and it's nice that they are arranged as well in order. I mean, you don't have to put them out in order. Obviously, you do need to alternate them between dark and light, but they're in order, so you don't need to think about it. So that's the panel you get for the blue and white, and obviously, I'm just going to fold it up. Obviously, you get the full instructions with the kit as well, which has everything you need to know, even the photographs that Catherine has taken step by step, so that it really does explain it. Completely demystifies it, as Zoe knows, because she's bought the kit. But it tells you exactly how to do it, and it shows in very detail, you know, particularly like the first folds, which are double folded. It's really, really lovely. So I think as long as you have done a bit of sewing before, this is perfectly manageable. The next one is charcoal. Really lovely monochrome neutral tones. Beautiful. But again, you know, make this one your own. If you want to add a few of your own fabrics to it, you could put a little, go Tula Pink and add a little splash of colour. In the 8 o'clock we did her latest fabric range, and it is all very black and white, but then every now and then she puts a splash of rainbow colour, so you could make this your own and do that too. But everything you need is in the panel, from the borders to there's all the rectangles for the folded star. There's the cushion back, so you've got for the envelope opening and the labels. That's the charcoal, and then finally is the red one. I haven't got the panel, but I have got the finished cushion. So this is what the red one looks like. You're going to overhead. So look, this is what the red, which should be called Cote de Rhone, looks like when it's finished. But exactly the same panel and full instructions. Right, Catherine, she's finished. Look at that. Well,
I finished folding it. And so when you get to that stage and you've got all your things folded,
yeah,
I do like that. These squares get cut into triangles. I'll just fold it to show what you do, and these get sewn over like that. So you just sew them over so that you've got a really nice, neat finish.
Lovely. And then you've got
all your little strips. So there's two little borders.
Right.
And then the backing, and then a binding to make the edges all neat.
Yeah, that's really simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like the fact it's got the borders, because that really frames
sets it off, actually. Yes, yes.
And also by having these triangles that go across the corners, that sort of neatens it up.
It does. It does.
Because I thought these would be quite loose, but actually you can put your fingers inside, but they don't come apart at all. It's not just folded, it is all...
The bit of stitching holds it all in, and then your last bit that just covers up any messy edges, that just secures everything in place, and it all just holds each other together.
It does, because I thought, I wonder whether you can take these apart, but you actually can't.
Well, I'm glad about that.
Well, only because you think, well, if you were using it a lot, it does mean that you can use it, because if they were just folded, eventually some would come undone, wouldn't they?
No, it's not going to. It's quite secure.
It is all very, very secure. Well, thanks, Catherine. That is lovely. I've really enjoyed those demos today.
I've enjoyed doing it today.
When are you back?
Do you know what? I'm back next week for Yarn Lane.
You are, yes.
And then I'm back for Sewing Street on the 22nd.
Whoa.
I might have to get my Christmas jumper out by then, mightn't I?
You will, yes, yes. Yeah, the next Monday's Yarn Lane, isn't it? Yes, I remember now. Should know that. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. So should we just have a quick recap of the kits? How long have I got left? About a minute and a half. Okay. Oh, I'll tell you what I have got is I have got 2 of the heat erasable pens here. Have we got the graphics on screen, or do we need to go down to the website? Okay. So we have got the 2 heat erasable pens in blue and green if you want to purchase those. These are ideal for this, or any sort of sewing really, but really good for this because you can just mark the fabric. Okay, so that's the end of Sewing Street for today. Tomorrow we've got coming up at 8 o'clock in the morning, floral fabrics, lovely to cheer up a dull grey December day. At 9 o'clock we've got Susie Duncan in with the City Lights quilt. 10 o'clock, sewing room tools. 11 o'clock, Susie is back again with the Moda Zoology collection. Oh, that'll be nice. Lovely. And at 12 o'clock, sewing machines special. But don't go anywhere, because I will be back with you in 2 or 3 minutes with today's Yarn Lane, where we've got Helen Ingram from Woolly Chic in, who's going to show us some beautiful, beautiful cosy knits. So don't go anywhere. We'll make a cup of tea, come back and ready to Yarn Lane, and it's knitting today. Thank you.